Chapter 1644. Long Bailey's flame saber directly leaped towards Li Fan and slashed towards his head. However, Li Fan did not dodge. He just kicked high and hit Long Bailey's chin, kicking Long Bailey up. At the same time, Li Fan followed like a shadow and leaped up. In the blink of an eye, he appeared beside Long Bailey and then with a kick, like a guillotine, he kicked Long Bailey's neck and directly beheaded her. With a plop, Long Bailey's headless corpse fell to the ground, raising a cloud of dust. As for his head, it rolled a few times on the ground. Long Bailey only felt that the world was spinning and then he saw blood red. Before he died, he only had one thought left. If only he had learned the true immortal art and become an immortal, he might not have died. If only he could continue to live. You actually killed sect leader Long? Oh my god, crazy. Li Fan, you are too arrogant. Everyone turned pale with fright. No one would have thought that Li Fan's attack would be so ruthless. One move and he would take a life. Come, next challenger. Li Fan beckoned with his finger. However, his method had shocked the so-called heroes of Wulin. For a moment, no one dared to step forward. They all thought that by relying on their numbers, they would be able to take advantage of Li Fan. However, they did not think that before they could take advantage, they would first pay with their lives. Yo, you Ruoying, sect leader you. Li Fan's gaze fell on you Ruoying. Weren't you very happy just now? Why don't you come and fight with me? How about it? I don't want to fight with you. Yu Ruoying naturally knew her own strength. She immediately turned her head and ignored Li Fan's provocation. If she went up, she would probably be beheaded in one move. Everyone, don't be afraid. I am here. Jiang Feng sensed everyone's fear. He immediately took 2 steps forward, looked at Li Fan, and said, "Third brother, as you can see, these friends in the martial arts world are afraid of you. Don't you hate people like martial emperors the most? But what's the difference between you and him now? Jiang Feng, don't give me that." Li Fan pointed at Jiang Feng. "If you want to fight, let's fight. Of course I'll fight you. Don't worry." Jiang Feng nodded. "I'm also a martial fighter, so I naturally respect the traditions of our martial fighters. Let's have a match. Even if my martial arts might not be as good as yours, for the sake of the world's heroes, for the sake of our martial arts world's justice, I will fight with you. You're really a righteous person." Li Fan couldn't help but laugh. "Alright, put away that face of yours, it looks disgusting. Come, let me see how your practice of the 5 Emperor's divine palms has progressed. Alright, since you insist on doing things your own way, then I can only make my move." Jiang Feng held a folding fan in one hand, while the other hand was behind his back. He quickly crossed the distance of over 10 meters and arrived in front of Li Fan. The folding fan in his hand was like a short stick as it pierced towards Li Fan's acupoint. Pa! Li Fan moved his body to the side, dodging Jiang Feng's folding fan. At the same time, he swept his leg out like a long whip, fiercely striking at Jiang Feng's waist. Jiang Feng pressed his folding fan down, blocking his waist, blocking Li Fan's attack. However, he was also kicked to the side, but with a flick of his finger, an Azura sword pierced towards the center of Li Fan's eyebrows. Li Fan waved his hand. His palm was like a blade as he deflected the Azura sword chi. The hands were 2 doors, and he relied entirely on his feet to kick people. Li Fan was currently using the Thunder Dragon Blade and the Dragon Subduing Platform at the same time. Together, he had both offense and defense, causing his opponent to be unable to stop. It was the same for Jiang Feng. Although his martial arts were extremely high, he was actually unable to do anything to Li Fan for a moment. Instead, he was being pushed back by Li Fan's moves. "Jiang Feng, don't tell me that you only have this little ability." Li Fan mocked. "You understand me." Jiang Feng laughed. "Naturally, it won't be that simple." With that said, Jiang Feng's body suddenly erupted with a strong black light, and a terrifying pressure pressed down. This was the power of the Black Emperor realm. Jiang Feng's basic strength had also reached the saint level. He then put on a layer of Azura Tiger's state, and his entire body immediately expanded to over 3 meters tall. It was the same as Li Fan's Heavenly Thunder transformation, but the increase in strength was a little weaker. But this was not the end. Jiang Feng opened his hands, and a dragon's roar suddenly came from the dark clouds in the sky. Following that, a golden light descended, piercing through the dark clouds and shining on Li Fan's body. Dragon God Possession. The Dragon God number 1 floating in space used the cosmic energy it had gathered through the nano core to enhance Jiang Feng's body. At this moment, Jiang Feng's strength had completely surpassed the saint level, reaching the strength of an inferior immortal. But an inferior immortal was still not a match for Li Fan. Li Fan himself had already cultivated to the strength of 7 or 8 sages. If he used the Heavenly Thunder transformation, his strength would be close to that of an exalted immortal. But he had already used the Heavenly Thunder transformation once today. If he wanted to use it a second time, he would need a long time to recover his strength. Therefore, the current Jiang Feng was really a troublesome opponent for Li Fan. With the strength of 7 sages, it would be a little difficult to deal with Jiang Feng, an expert with the strength of 11 or 12 sages. But this was not a difficult task for Li Fan. He immediately circulated the power of the White Tiger and the 9-tailed Divine Fox, one on each side, and gathered them on his feet. The Red Divine Fox and the White Fierce Tiger flew out. The Divine Fox merged into Li Fan's left foot and turned into a scarlet fox-shaped leg armor. And the White Tiger merged into his right foot and turned into a platinum Fierce Tiger leg armor. After Li Fan put on this pair of leg armor, he lifted his left leg and swept it at Jiang Feng. A red light flashed. Jiang Feng was kicked in the chest and immediately slid more than 10 meters away, leaving a trail of white smoke on the ground. Third brother, you really like to surprise people. A sinister light flashed in Jiang Feng's eyes. I didn't expect you to have such a trump card. I usually don't use this kind of technique, but against you, it's better for me to be cautious. Li Fan's feet shot out and his whole body seemed to have teleported, immediately appearing in front of Jiang Feng. Jiang Feng was a little surprised. Li Fan's speed had increased so much again. Jiang Feng immediately flew out with a claw and grabbed at Li Fan's chest. However, Li Fan's Thunder Dragon blade directly bounced away Jiang Feng's tiger claw. At the same time, he turned his body and exerted strength from his waist, moving his right leg like a heavy hammer, heavily striking Jiang Feng's waist. Jiang Feng's 3-meter-tall body was also whipped into the air and sent spinning, crashing into the spectator stands. Jiang Feng spat out a mouthful of blood. Even though his body had been strengthened several times, he was still injured by this kick. The White Tiger leg armor seemed to have some kind of power that could ignore defense. How is it? Li Fan raised his right leg high and looked at Jiang Feng, who was sent flying. Do you still want to fight? Chapter 1645. Li Fan, you are too strong. Jiang Feng wipes the blood from the corner of his mouth and pulls out his body from the wall and lands on the ground again. I am really surprised that there are still you and Murong Ying in this world. If there are not the two of you, I should be the strongest, right? You, me, Murong Ying, we all have unique talent. Li Fan says objectively, in terms of talent, the three of us should be equal. But you have too many distracting thoughts and lack perseverance. You are destined to be unable to make great progress in the martial Tao. You really have guts to actually say that my perseverance is insufficient. Jiang Feng sneers, in order to realize my dream, how much have I sacrificed? You actually doubt my perseverance. Your perseverance is destruction. Li Fan says bluntly, and my perseverance is salvation. Murong Ying's perseverance is becoming stronger. Shouldn't destruction be the strongest? Jiang Feng sneered, I will prove to you that I am the strongest. With that, Jiang Feng opens his mouth and takes a deep breath. The surrounding martial fighters immediately feel a chill, following which power involuntarily flows out from their pores and converges in Jiang Feng's direction. As for the Saintess and the people of Leaning on the Sword Laughing Breeze, they are like the rest of the martial artists, half kneeling on the ground, their foreheads covered in cold sweat. They are very weak. Only Li Fan, because of the Taiji diagram protecting his meridians, did not let Jiang Feng succeed. This is Vairocana Heart Sutra? Li Fan is shocked, but immediately reacts, no, this is Star Luo Divine Technique. So you obtained power from Murong Bo? When I fell into the Azura path, the power of everyone I killed was absorbed by me. Jiang Feng's eyes light up with green light, his entire body is burning with a layer of green flame, his voice also becomes very cold. Today's occasion is the most suitable for me. Here. With that, Jiang Feng's body also starts to swell, his power is increasing rapidly. Before long, he had the power of at least 20 sages. Although it was still far from the realm of mighty immortals, it was more than enough to deal with Li Fan. Die. Jiang Feng's finger suddenly shot out, and the Azura sword pierced through Li Fan's chest at lightning speed. Li Fan half knelt down and covered his injured chest. Because of his genes, Li Fan's wounds were slowly healing. What else? Jiang Feng suddenly appeared in front of Li Fan. He extended his claws and unleashed a flurry of attacks at Li Fan. Azura Tiger Claw. This set of attacks left Li Fan's body riddled with scars. In the blink of an eye, he was covered in blood. Jiang Feng struck out with both hands and struck Li Fan's chest, sending Li Fan flying. Li Fan's body smashed into the wall, causing dust to rise. Do you see? This is my power. Jiang Feng roared excitedly. If you were like Emperor Wu and could fight with me at my peak, I would admire you a little. Li Fan's voice came from the smoke. Following that, Li Fan swept his leg, dispersing the smoke. He stood in front of Jiang Feng with a body full of injuries. At the same time, streaks of lightning wandered around his body. Unfortunately, you only know how to play smart and wait for me to exhaust myself, letting Emperor Wu and the others exhaust my battle strength before you dare to fight with me. Li Fan entered the first stage of Heavenly Thunder transformation, doubling his strength. So, you are a good-for-nothing. Li Fan's words infuriated Jiang Feng. Shut up. Jiang Feng suddenly appeared in front of Li Fan, both palms slapping towards Li Fan's temples. Black Emperor subduing demon. Li Fan stretched out both hands and blocked Jiang Feng's palms. At the same time, he kicked forward with both feet, causing Jiang Feng to slide backward. Li Fan's kick had already caused Jiang Feng to stiffen. He then followed up, twisting his waist and unleashing a series of whirlwind kicks with perfect arcs, continuously kicking Jiang Feng's body. Flying dragon chasing the moon. Li Fan used the dragon subduing platform beautifully. This set of leg techniques was almost unparalleled when used by him. He kicked Jiang Feng until he kept retreating, not even giving him time to counterattack. Azure Dragon Water. 12 consecutive strikes. Li Fan unleashed another 12 stabbing kicks in a row, each strike hitting Jiang Feng's chest. With the Divine Fox strengthening his left leg, Li Fan's speed became even faster. In the blink of an eye, 12 depressions appeared on Jiang Feng's chest. He took a few steps back, clutched his chest, and then knelt on the ground. Even after being strengthened so much, Jiang Feng was still defeated by Li Fan. No! I can't accept this, Jiang Feng muttered to himself. At this moment, a voice rang in his ears. Give me your soul, I want more. That was the voice of Azura. Completely submitting to Azura was tantamount to giving up one's humanity and submitting to Azura. This was a voice that only Jiang Feng, who was one with his heart and demon, could hear. He also knew that this was his last chance. Take it away. Jiang Feng suddenly roared, take it all away. As long as I become stronger. The moment his voice fell, the Azura coat on his body suddenly collapsed. A naked British man stood in the middle of the stage. But very quickly, his skin began to turn black, and red Azura tattoos covered his entire body. A terrifying aura instantly spread out. Quickly take them away. Li Fan sensed that something was wrong. He immediately channeled some inner strength to Saintus and the rest. Quickly leave, the further the better. But there were even more martial artists present. Teresa was also on the spectator stand, looking extremely weak. Looking at Windsor in the distance, her face was also pale. Number 9 seemed to be fine. He also sensed that something was wrong. He carried Windsor, turned around and jumped out of the arena. Although the remaining people wanted to kill Li Fan was not willing to let them die here. If these people died, perhaps the Chinese pugilistic world would also be finished. Tai Chi. Expand. Li Fan operated the Tai Chi diagram and spread out his strength instantly. Waves of inner strength spread out and instantly entered the bodies of the surrounding martial artists, giving them the strength to use Qigong. I suddenly have strength. Everyone, quickly run. Everyone felt an unprecedented terror from Jiang Feng. They quickly ran out of the arena. And Saintus did not hesitate, pulling Luo Shuowu and the rest and fled towards the secret passage that had been prepared beforehand. Luo Shuowu did not struggle. She knew that if she stayed now, she would only be a burden to Li Fan. A group of people fled frantically, and Jiang Feng finally opened his eyes. His pupils turned white, and the corner of his mouth hung a somewhat perverted smile. Chapter 1646. Jiang Feng. Li Fan suddenly steps forward and kicks his face. Pa. Li Fan's calf is grabbed by Jiang Feng as he laughs strangely. Gigi, can this even be called a kick? It's too weak. With that, Jiang Feng grabs Li Fan's calf and throws him out. Li Fan doesn't have the time to dissipate this force and is directly smashed into the ground at the side, leaving a gully. Aya, there's someone else? Jiang Feng suddenly appears in front of an Amei disciple who is fleeing in panic. That Amei disciple is panicking and quickly stretches out her hand to her sect leader, wanting to ask for help. But Yu Ruoying runs faster than anyone else. This sect leader is displaying their sect's white horse treading on snow martial art to the fullest, almost exceeding his level. He simply doesn't care about his own disciple and in a blink of an eye, he disappears from the disciple's sight. The disciple collapses, but Jiang Feng is already in front of him. With a stretch of his hand, his claw directly grabs the disciple's skull. Before the disciple can react, she has already been sucked dry and then thrown to the ground. Ah, it's quite delicious. Jiang Feng's smile is even more perverted as he licks his lips. Is there anything more delicious? Oh, there's even a foreign girl. Jiang Feng's gaze falls on the wall. Windsor is lying there, secretly taking pictures with her camera. In a blink of an eye, Jiang Feng has already appeared on the top of the wall, which is dozens of meters high, looking at Windsor in front of him. Get lost. Number 9 suddenly kicks Jiang Feng, but his ankle is grabbed by Jiang Feng again. Aya, there is a person with a strange taste here. But, your energy seems to be quite nutritious. As Jiang Feng speaks, his claw grabs towards Number 9's chest. Number 9's chest is scratched, but he turns into his half-dragon form and directly grabs Jiang Feng's body and throws him back to the stage. And at this moment, Li Fan suddenly appears behind Jiang Feng. He raised his leg high up, and with a dragon-shaped aura, he struck Jiang Feng's lower back. Bang! Jiang Feng was kicked into the auditorium, and one side of the auditorium collapsed from the impact. Not bad. Jiang Feng pushed away the rubble as if nothing had happened and jumped out. This kick is quite strong. Now it's my turn, right? He suddenly let out a wild laugh, then leaped up, his claws constantly clawing at Li Fan. Li Fan used the dragon-subduing platform and combined it with the Thunder Dragon Saber. He exchanged more than 10 moves with Jiang Feng in an instant. Bang! Li Fan was actually at a disadvantage. Jiang Feng's palm landed on his chest, sending him flying like a cannonball and smashing into the ground, creating a crater. Ha! Jiang Feng actually opened his mouth and spat out a black-red shockwave that blasted onto Li Fan's body. Li Fan felt a tearing pain in his body. He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. Jiang Feng in his berserk state is a little abnormal. Am I going to lose? At this moment, Li Fan felt deeply unreconciled. In reality, it wasn't as if he wanted to explode the pocket universe. He was currently facing a huge crisis. If he didn't think of a way to deal with it, there would be endless troubles in the future. Use my power. Miss White Tiger's voice sounded in Li Fan's ears. Jiang Feng has submitted to the Azura's power. The Azura's weakness is its soul. Li Fan instantly understood. Fuck, it was fortunate that Miss White Tiger was here. Otherwise, he really wouldn't be able to settle this matter. Li Fan propped up his body and stood up from the pit. He consumed the last few spring-returning pills, then stretched out his hand, allowing the White Tiger's power to condense in his hand. A white divine bow appeared in Li Fan's hand. He completely concentrated his mental power, and his whole body was in a state of excitement. With a flick of his feet, he suddenly retreated and appeared on the 10-meter-high spectator stand at the side. Jiang Feng was standing at the spot where he had just stood, licking his claws. "You run very fast." He suddenly frowned and instantly moved more than 10 meters away. Li Fan's arrow actually missed. The white tiger's arrow directly hit the opponent's soul, but the prerequisite was to lock onto the opponent's aura. But in an instant, the aura of the berserk Jiang Feng actually disappeared. Ah, so dangerous. Jiang Feng stared at the white tiger divine bow in Li Fan's hand. "The thing in your hand seems to be quite dangerous. Can you put it down?" Li Fan continued to track Jiang Feng's aura and continuously pulled the bowstring. But Jiang Feng continued to hide the moment Li Fan shot the arrow. His aura disappeared along with him, causing Li Fan to lose his target again. The opponent was like a wild beast, possessing a high level of vigilance and concealment ability. "GGG, you can't catch me." Jiang Feng suddenly appeared behind Li Fan and clawed at his chest. But Li Fan allowed Jiang Feng to claw at his chest. Jiang Feng suddenly froze. A red tail extended out from behind Li Fan and wrapped around his body, binding him. "You can't escape, friend." As Li Fan spoke, he continuously pulled the white tiger divine bow and shot the arrows one by one into Jiang Feng's soul as if he was firing a gun. Jiang Feng retreated continuously and finally fell from the high platform. He fell to the ground and smashed into a cloud of dust. He lay there, his expression twitching for a long time, as if he was in extreme pain. After an unknown amount of time, he finally regained some consciousness. He looked at Li Fan, who was standing above him with cold sweat on his forehead. "I still lost in the end. Looks like I didn't use this berserk power well enough. My opponent's bow and arrows have a very strong restraining ability. I have to be careful next time." Li Fan. "Next time. I will definitely win against you." As Jiang Feng spoke, he suddenly transformed into a black light and fled far away from the stage. And his subordinates had long fled when he went berserk. Jiang Feng still had to go back and reorganize his troops, so he could only leave in a hurry. "Ah, it's finally over." Li Fan also heaved a sigh of relief. This battle was really too hard. 2 days ago, there was a sea of people in the martial arts arena, but today, there was not a single person left. Li Fan looked at the martial arts arena that was almost in ruins and deeply felt the terror of power. Looks like, other than Beyond Avalon, Martial Emperor, Jiang Feng has also become a very big threat. Thinking of this, Li Fan raised his head and looked at number 9 who was above his head. "Why are you looking at me?" Number 9 snorted, "I will not join hands with you. You seem to know me very well." Li Fan laughed bitterly. "I don't know you." Number 9 coldly replied, "If you want to protect these people, then become stronger yourself. It won't be long before I go and challenge you again." With that, number 9 carried Windsor and left the martial arts arena once again. "This guy is too hard to get close to. Did he really extract the gene from my body?" Li Fan shook his head. Just as he was about to leave, Jade appeared out of nowhere and blocked his way. Chapter 1647. "Do you want to fight, friend?" Li Fan looked at Jade in front of him and asked directly. "I have a rule that I cannot fight with you." Jade looked at Li Fan with disdain. "Otherwise, with your current state, if I wanted to kill you, it would be easy." "Are you sure?" Li Fan laughed. "Since you are so sure and can get rid of a big problem for Sky Beyond Sky, why don't you give it a try? Come, kill me, maybe those people above you will reward you, or even promote you to a higher level deity." Jade's mouth twitched. He seemed to be holding back something and did not make a move. Li Fan was just testing him. He was also looking for the hidden secrets of Sky Beyond Sky. "You don't dare to fight. You are so timid, you don't even dare to fight with an injured person." Li Fan felt that Jade was getting weirder and weirder. He continued to provoke Jade. "You don't have to provoke me. I will definitely not violate the rules." Jade emphasized, "The orders from above are absolute. If I go against it, I will suffer a destructive punishment. So that's the case. Since you are not going to fight, why are you not scram?" "Too rude," Jade scolded. I am only here to warn you, don't go against my sky beyond sky. Otherwise, we will first destroy your city and use you as a warning to those who try to resist us. How do you want to destroy my city? Li Fan raised his eyebrows. What, a group of sky beyond sky that do not even dare to come down also dare to cause trouble in my city? I already said, don't look down on the power of my sky beyond sky. Jade laughed coldly, you will see soon enough. After saying these words of warning, Jade turned and left the battle arena. Not long after he left, he came to a room and saw the martial emperor sitting cross-legged there. How is your recovery? About 78. The martial emperor let out a breath of turbid air. Li Fan's strength is indeed powerful. If I did not cultivate the true immortal technique, I would not be his opponent. The martial emperor could not help but admit that Li Fan was a strong opponent. His strength was right in front of him, and it had become a huge stumbling block for him to rule the kingdom. If we want to get rid of Li Fan, we have to get rid of his forces as well. Jade warned the martial emperor. After this, Li Fan will probably return to the Li family island. The martial emperor asked, how should we eliminate his entire force? I need time, and I need even stronger techniques. With our current strength, there is no way to defeat Li Fan. The true immortal technique had almost been cultivated to the point of perfection by the martial emperor. You did not dare to let him learn any more profound techniques. Actually, the true immortal art was divided into 2 volumes. The first volume was further divided into 7 parts. Moreover, there were some loopholes and flaws in it. After that, it was released into the mortal realm with the intention of provoking a war in the mortal realm. Don't worry, the higher-ups have already approved the use of the Immortal Ascension Pill. As you spoke, she took out a small porcelain bottle. Immortal Ascension Pill? What is it? The martial emperor had a bad feeling about this. This is a type of pill developed by our sky beyond heaven. As long as animals consume it, they can become immortals. Animals? The martial emperor was a little shocked. Animals can become immortals? To demonstrate, you took out a bulldog that was tied up in the room. This bulldog was originally very fierce, but after sensing the martial emperor's aura, it did not even dare to bark and could only lie there. You passed the pill over and fed it to the bulldog. The bulldog sniffed it twice, and seemed to be very interested. It stuck out its tongue and rolled the pill into its mouth, and chewed a few times. After a minute or two, the bulldog suddenly started wailing. It kept on trembling and twitching. Following that, its body started to emit a stench. At the same time, its body started to swell up. Its flesh and blood started to burst and fall onto the ground. It was extremely disgusting. Very quickly, a bulldog man slowly stood up from the ground. Saliva was still dripping from his mouth. It has already surpassed itself and evolved. You said, it has a very high IQ and will quickly learn the human language. We can nurture this kind of army and let them fight for us. So that's how it is. The martial emperor nodded, so that's how those beast men from the west came about. That's right. Back then, we were the ones who planted this seed in the west. In the end, they evolved too quickly and had the desire for peace. They broke away from their killing machine nature. Thus, we slightly modified the new generation Immortal Ascension Pill. How can this thing be called Immortal Ascension Pill? The martial emperor could not help but mock. I think it should be called Demon Transformation Pill. Regardless of what it is called, they are now your army. You reminded the martial emperor, the higher-ups have given you a quota of 100 people. These fellows all have the strength of immortal slaves. With over 100 of them, it should be enough for you to flatten Li Family Island, right? Do they all listen to my leadership? Of course, even though they only listen to you temporarily. You emphasized this point. After you flatten Li Family Island and carry out the plan to destroy the world, these troops will be taken back by us. They are really careful. The people from Sky Beyond Sky are really cautious. The martial emperor chuckled, his voice was filled with disdain. You should understand that this army is lent to you. You did not wish to argue with the martial emperor on this matter. In short, we need to carry out the destruction plan quickly and flatten Li Family Island. What's the rush? The martial emperor laughed coldly. If you want to flatten Li Family Island, other than your army, I can still borrow more people. Oh, is that possible? Of course. The martial emperor nodded. I have my own plans. Since that is the case, I shall wait to watch a good show. Li Fan had indeed returned to Li Family Island. With the appearance of many strong enemies, Li Fan became even more vigilant. While he was strengthening the island's construction, he was also nurturing his own army. China's martial arts world had already issued an official warrant for Li Fan's arrest. However, it was only limited to the martial arts world. At this moment, Li Fan was still on the phone with General Ran. That idiot, he actually wants our army to cooperate with you to issue a warrant for your arrest. What bullshit. General Ran scolded non-stop. We are really giving him face. Who does he think he is? Relying on his background to climb to that position, not to mention stirring up a mess, he even wants to issue a warrant for his arrest. You can rest assured that the army and the police will not do anything to you. But as for the martial arts world, sorry, brother, I can't say anything. But I think, in China's martial arts world, there is probably no one who can beat you, brother, right? Rest assured, as long as the government doesn't issue a warrant for my arrest, it's fine. What a joke. You are a meritorious minister. Only an idiot would want to issue a warrant for your arrest. You forced away a patriotism top expert. That surnamed Nyo, his head is filled with fucking shit. General Ran seemed to be really angry. He kept cursing and swearing non-stop. Chapter 1648. Li Fan first comforted General Ran. He felt that General Ran was even angrier than him. However, Li Fan was very open-minded. The government had not officially issued a warrant for his arrest, so there was nothing to be afraid of. As for the arrest warrant from the headquarters, it was meaningless. The commander of the Royal Guards, Jiang Feng, was busy trying to remedy the crimes he had committed in the arena. However, his reputation was almost on par with that of the undying evil Buddha in the martial arts world. Everyone feared him to the extreme. As for the name Li Fan, the people of the martial arts world were also unwilling to mention it. Everyone wanted to kill this bastard who had the first 3 pages of the true immortal arts, but there was nothing they could do. Li Family Island was heavily guarded. Not only were there the 7 Knights Villa's sword guards, there were also the world-famous Li Family mercenaries. In particular, Li Family Island had just exposed their black technology. They were equipped with 10 great sword guards humanoid mechas. This was simply too terrifying. Since the last time Number 9 defeated the first generation of mechas, Bai Linluo led the scientists to remodel a new batch of humanoid mechas. These humanoid mechas were made to be 5 meters tall. Although they were not as huge as before, they were much more flexible. Moreover, this set of humanoid mechas was controlled by spiritual power. With a set of spiritual power support system, one could easily pilot the mechas. When you were in seclusion, the Great Sword Guards also participated in the landing battle of Beibei as Chinese mercenaries. Liu Zhu, who was wearing a butler's suit, stood in front of Li Fan and introduced the achievements of this set of mechas. We dispatched a total of 4 mechas and easily disintegrated an armored division of Beibei's troops. Beibei's troops probably don't have much combat power, so they can't be used as a reference. Li Fan laughed. But since everyone values this set of mechas, it's good. Currently, Bai Linluo is helping you develop a set of mechas that can enhance your combat power. Liu Zhu continued, we watched the battle video of the martial emperor. We think that the so-called immortals cultivate their own Dharma bodies to participate in battles. Based on modern technology and the research of superpowers, we should be able to develop this kind of mecha that can replace the Dharma bodies. As long as you pilot it, it should have the same effect as the Dharma bodies. Oh, there's such black technology. Then I really have to take a look. Li Fan became interested. Speaking of which, you clearly took a leave for a period of time. How do you know more about this than me? Even if I took a leave, I didn't neglect my work. Liu Zhu winked at Li Fan, Jun Shong, then we will move to the development agency. Master knew that you would definitely go, so he was prepared. Let's go. Let's go. Li Fan waved his hand and was ready to set off. At this time, he had already moved out of his previous office and moved into the newly completed Jun Shongfu. Rather than calling it a mansion, it was more appropriate to call it a castle. Fan it. It Dan Li Cheng fan it lush the front of a castle. It was more. Then. Li was, the mountain. The mountain. To fan, there was Li. In addition to Li Fan's residence, a part of the castle was open to the public. Tourists could enter and visit the castle. Accommodation and food were provided, but the cost was higher. Li Fan understood that Little Four Eyes was killing two birds with one stone. Not only did he build his reputation, he also used it to make money. Master, please get in. The beautiful female bodyguard, Nova, had a long braid. She stood downstairs and opened the door for Li Fan. In Nova's eyes, Li Fan saw a kind of fanaticism and worship. It had to be said that Little Four Eyes brainwashing was very effective. Although Li Fan didn't agree with it. But for the current Li Jiadao, this plan was indeed the most effective. It's Li Family Island's master. Master is on a journey. I need to take a picture. Wow, so impressive. Li Fan's motorcade was followed by 4 escort cars. As soon as his motorcade came out, a lot of tourists became excited and took pictures. Look, you're so popular now. Liu Zhu said to Li Fan with a laugh. It's all an empty reputation. Li Fan was a bit embarrassed. My goal in making this island wasn't to become famous. But you're the spiritual symbol of Li Family Island. Liu Zhu reminded Li Fan, especially after that martial arts competition, your name has already resounded in the world. The current you can be said to be the real number 1 in the world. I don't dare to be number 1 in the world. Li Fan shook his head. There are many people in the world who are much stronger than me. Especially the sky beyond heaven. It's said that there are 10 celestial immortals. Each of them is 100 times stronger than me. Even if I use some special abilities, the difference is still more than 10 times. Thunder transformation is just an emergency measure. With Li Fan's personality, he doesn't like to rely on this kind of short-term strengthening to ensure his strength. This way, he doesn't feel safe. If he had enough time, he would really like to properly cultivate. It's a pity that he can't go to that landscape painting anymore. Otherwise, that place would really be too good for cultivation. Don't worry about this. Chief Bai knows what you need. He has already helped you develop a more efficient seclusion place. This can also be done. Li Fan was a bit surprised. Ian, when we get there, Chief Bai will personally introduce you to it. That's good. With Bai Lin Luo helping me, I can save a lot of trouble. Li Fan sighed with emotion. What about me? Liu Zhu raised her eyebrows and asked. Haha, you're also my indispensable right-hand man. Li Fan laughed. We're all brothers. Why are you still being jealous in this aspect? Brother, you're just fooling people with these words. Cough, cough. Then, are we arriving soon? We're still far away. Liu Zhu rolled her eyes. At this moment, the phone in the car rang. She picked it up and listened. Then, she pressed the phone and asked Li Fan. Someone wants to see you. Who? A US woman named Windsor. Arrange a meeting. Li Fan muttered in his heart. Why does this girl want to see me? Where is suitable to meet? Pick her up in this car. Li Fan was now sitting in a family VIP car. It was very spacious inside, and he could directly work in it. Okay, I'll arrange it. Liu Zhu gave some instructions on the phone. Soon, the car arrived at the Foreign Affairs office and picked up the little girl, Windsor, on the car. Wow, it's really the island owner. After Windsor got on the car, she took a few photos with her camera. Why are you here? Li Fan looked at the little girl in front of him. Shouldn't number 9 follow you at all times? Why did he let you out alone? I slipped out. Don't tell him. Chapter 1649. I want to talk to you about cooperation. Windsor looks at Li Fan confidently. Liu Zhu takes out a bottle of red wine from the refrigerator next to her and pours it for them. Windsor glanced at Liu Zhu and frowned slightly. She seemed to see something, but she didn't speak. Cooperation? What cooperation? Li Fan raised his glass and looked at Windsor with interest. What do you need me to cooperate with you? Why can't I? Are you looking down on me? Windsor looked at Li Fan with dissatisfaction. I am also a well-known reporter. Oh, you want to get some first-hand information from me? Yes. Windsor nodded. I heard that you have a lot of weapons of mass destruction, but you do a good job of keeping the information confidential. So I want to get the exclusive right to report. Weapons of mass destruction, it depends on how you define it. Li Fan laughed. The armaments developed by our Li family island are never used on the battlefield of injustice. How do you define justice? Windsor asked directly. For example, the mercenaries of the Li family island are famous all over the world. They fight on various battlefields and stained with countless blood. Is that all justice? As long as it can end those endless wars, it is justice. Li Fan said without hesitation. If you are here to criticize me, it is okay. I accept any criticism. It is your business to criticize me, but it is my business whether I take it to heart or not. Tempage, you are indeed the number 9 gene owner. In some aspects, you two are really alike. Windsor curled her lips. Both of you are fanatical warmongers. You are wrong about this. Li Fan immediately retorted. I like to compete, but I am against war. The reason why the powerful mercenaries of the Li family island are trained is to protect the safety of the Li family island. I don't say anything else. At present, the crime index of the Li family island is the lowest in the world. Because everyone who goes to the Li family island knows how serious the consequences will be if they commit a crime on the Li family island. In the Li family island, all crimes will be severely punished. For example, if you tried to steal, your finger would be cut off. On this point, Bai Linluo and Li Fan had a dispute. According to Bai Linluo's opinion, the Li family island was still under construction, so it was not suitable to use a heavy punishment. It should be recuperating, attracting immigrants and foreign businessmen, and vigorously developing the economy. However, Li Fan's opinion was that it was necessary to establish a truly lawful country. There was no need to show any mercy to criminals. What the Li family island needed were real construction talents, not people who acted like chickens and dogs. Moreover, the welfare of the Li family island's immigrants was also very high. This was equivalent to using both carrot and stick. Currently, the Li family island was on the path of sound development. Windsor retracted her gaze when she saw a guard in a reaper suit walking by the street. This is terrifying militarism. History has already proven that this is wrong. Indulgence is the best breeding ground for criminals. Li Fan disagreed. Moreover, I'm not a militarist. Militarism means that everyone is a soldier and everyone is in danger. However, I'm not implementing any reign of terror. The biggest thing about the Li family island is the law. Even I have to abide by it. In China, there is a saying, without rules, nothing can be accomplished. Our America also rules the country by law. There are as many laws as there are hairs on an ox, and the regulations are extremely detailed. However, Windsor reminded Li Fan. But you see, there are still a lot of criminal records in the United States. This proves that strict laws are useless. We should be light on laws and focus on civil rights. Little girl, you still have some resemblance to our 100 schools of thought. Li Fan laughed. Our Li family island focuses on laws and civil rights. But when I came here, I saw that everyone here worships you blindly and is extremely fanatical. There are even many young people who are willing to sacrifice their lives for you. Ahem, this might be because I'm too outstanding. Bah. You reporter, how can you be so rude? Nova turned her head and glared at Windsor. If you dare to be disrespectful to my lord again, don't blame me for being impolite. Aya, I'm used to talking to number 9. Windsor couldn't help but stick out her tongue. Li Fan looked exactly like number 9. She couldn't help but take out the tone and attitude she usually used when talking to number 9. It doesn't matter. I'm not that kind of dictatorial warlord. If you talk to me normally, I won't get angry. Nova, focus on driving. Yes, my lord. Speaking of which, You're really a strange person. Windsor muttered, after seeing you on the martial arts field, I felt that you shouldn't be a bad person. But what are you fighting for? What is the sky beyond heaven that you're talking about? Windsor finally talked about the main topic. Li Fan didn't avoid it. If you're a reporter, I can't tell you what's going to happen next. But if you're just a friend who wants to communicate with me, I can talk to you so that your number 9 can make some preparations in advance. If it's valuable news, I want everyone to know. This is their right. If you've heard my story, you might not think so. Li Fan drank a mouthful of red wine and handed the glass to Liu Zhu. The story is a bit long. It just so happens that the car will be driving for a while. You can slowly listen to it. Li Fan also intended to cooperate with number 9. Therefore, he also wanted to be frank with Windsor and win her favor. He told the story of Sky Beyond Heaven. Windsor looked at him with a dumbfounded expression. You aren't making up a story, right? Haven't you seen the power that Martial Emperor showed? Li Fan said. He used the spell that Sky Beyond Heaven passed on to him. In order to occupy the Earth, Sky Beyond Heaven wanted to start a plan to destroy humanity. And each country probably doesn't have the power to deal with Sky Beyond Heaven. They won't cooperate with me. Because for them, compared to Sky Beyond Heaven, I'm more like a threatening big tiger. If what you said is true, then aren't we humans facing a destructive crisis? Yes, but do you dare to tell such a thing to the people? Li Fan sighed. If it is publicized, I'm afraid that a group of people will take the opportunity to come out and make trouble tomorrow. The society will be in turmoil, and the government will immediately lose credibility. At that time, I'm afraid it will be even more difficult to deal with Sky Beyond Heaven. Number 9 and I will help you. Windsor decided. Although I don't quite agree with your militarism, in order to protect humanity, there are some things that can only be done by you. I'll do my best. After all, there are many people here who I cherish. Li Fan said and put his arm around Liu Zhu's shoulder. Moreover, I already have a group of brothers around me to help me. Liu Zhu bowed her head shyly. Windsor's expression also became a bit ambiguous. Fuck, we're not what you think we are. Chapter 1650. Li Fan takes Windsor all the way to the Development Bureau. Hello, Miss Windsor. Bai Lin Luo is wearing a white coat and has been waiting here for a long time. When he saw Windsor, he bowed slightly to her. Hey, do you know me? I've learned some information about you. Bai Lin Luo winks at Windsor. Don't underestimate our Li Family Islands intelligence agency. Really? Windsor looks at Bai Lin Luo provocatively. Then do you know what information I want to exchange with you this time? I'm afraid it's some information that is not good for our Li Family Island. Bai Lin Luo doesn't take it seriously. Although the Li Family Island's intelligence department is good, it can't cover all aspects. Miss Windsor, if your information is valuable, we are naturally willing to make a fair exchange with you. Bai Lin Luo's answer is very appropriate. Windsor can't find any fault. Humph, it's good that you know. In the words of your Huaxia people, I'm a famous reporter. How can I lose to you in terms of intelligence? These words sound strange. The people present all hold back their laughter and don't burst out. Since it's a beautiful misunderstanding, let's let the misunderstanding go to the end. Well, Miss Famous Journalist, let's see the great sword guards that you are interested in. Li Fan coughs twice and let Bai Lin Luo lead the way. He leads Windsor to the Development Bureau to see a set of great sword guards that are being improved. The first generation of great sword guards is 5.3 meters tall and weighs 3.5 tons. Bai Lin Luo was wearing his trademark glasses. He pointed at a huge humanoid mecha in front of him and said, however, the previous generation's great sword guardians were still not agile enough. So, we're considering if we should continue to reduce the height and weight of the great sword guardians to make them more agile. This kind of large humanoid mecha is certainly not flexible enough. Li Fan shakes his head. I think we can improve the training of the pilots, so that they can practice a set of professional and simple tactical skills. Your method is also valuable. We will consider it comprehensively. The relationship between Bai Lin Luo and Li Fan was very close. There was no such thing as a superior and subordinate relationship. Their conversation also made Windsor feel that the bond between them was not shallow. With such a cooperative Lee family island, it would really be a little difficult for the outside world to destroy them. Currently, the most important thing is still the development of your celestial sovereign title. As Bai Lin Luo spoke, he pointed to the side. Come with me, I'll show you. Are you still developing a new generation of mecha? Windsor felt that the combat effectiveness of the Great Sword Guards was already very terrifying. Li Jiadao actually wanted to continue to invent more powerful weapons of mass destruction. Yes, it's for my personal use. Li Fan smiled. In order to deal with a group of powerful enemies, I have to equip myself. Do you still need armor? Windsor was a little speechless. This guy was obviously very powerful. It's always good to have a little more power, but this is also the last resort. Li Fan just gave himself 2 more insurance. Thunder Change was an insurance, and this Dharmakaya mecha was also an insurance. That is also a weapon. Then do you want to see it? Yes. Windsor eagerly followed Li Fan and others to the research room of the Dharmakaya mecha Celestial Sovereign. In the research room, there was a black and white mecha with golden dragon patterns. This mecha was about 4 meters high. It imitated the shape of a human and was made of some kind of alloy. It exuded a kind of atmosphere of the metal era. This is the Celestial Sovereign, made of super nanomaterials. Bai Lin Luo introduced to Li Fan, the Celestial Sovereign is equipped with a brand new and customized spiritual power operating system. It can completely transform your power and run it on the mecha. Well, can this kind of thing really be done? Li Fan expressed doubt. But after Bai Lin Luo explained, Li Fan understood. Do you remember the nanocore? America's Zeus project and Jiang Feng's body were both implanted with nanocore. Oh, I understand. Li Fan was not a fool. After hearing Bai Lin Luo's explanation, he understood. Well, this system works in reverse. The nanocore is implanted in the mecha to receive the energy in your body. At the same time, through the unique nano-enhancement technology, your strength can be increased by a certain amount. But at present, we can only increase the multiplier to 5 times. It should be able to continue to increase it to achieve the effect of 10 times. If it can really achieve 10 times, then it will be amazing. Li Fan was a little excited when he heard this. 10 times. 10 times the effect, just like his heavenly thunder transformation. Moreover, this mecha did not have any side effects. As long as the mecha was not damaged, he could always exert 10 times the strength. Bai Lin Luo really knew him too well. This was timely. At present, only 7 nanocore have been implanted. If we can find a way to implant more, we should be able to achieve 10 times the effect. Bai Lin Luo continued. But this process requires a lot of calculations. Every time we add a core, it will double the calculation process. With our current technology, it will probably take some time before we can break through this field. This thing, can it be mass-produced? Li Fan could not help but ask. No. Bai Lin Luo shook his head. This kind of nanocore requires a lot of resources. Li Jiadao has used up almost all of our resources to build this one. The remaining materials also need to be used for daily repair and maintenance. In other words, this thing is more precious than Dragon God number 1. China's Dragon God number 1 used a lot of resources. It was almost a war machine that was built with money. It was almost impossible to build another Dragon God number 2. This immortal has also been inputted with your genetic code. Other than you, no one else can operate it. Bai Lin Luo had specially added insurance for the immortal. Li Fan could not help but praise Bai Lin Luo. This kid thought too much. Basically, he had already prepared everything he could think of. And he had also done everything he could not think of. With such a left and right hand, how could he not be satisfied? Can I test it first? Li Fan could not help but feel an itch in his heart. Of course, a simple test can still be done. Bai Lin Luo nodded and then ordered people to start testing the mecha. Then, he extended his hand. Yes, the control method is very simple. Just rely on your spiritual power. The front hatch of the mecha sprang open, and a cockpit appeared in front of Li Fan. Li Fan jumped directly into the cockpit. As soon as he entered, a helmet was directly placed on his head, and the cockpit retracted into the mecha. Immortal, requesting spiritual connection. Chapter 1651. Li Fan stands in the Immortal Sovereign and hears a mechanical female voice asking him if he wants to conduct the spiritual connection. Allow. Genetic code confirmed. Spiritual connection activated. Immortal Sovereign activated. After a series of voices, Li Fan, who originally had his eyes closed, suddenly feels the world in front of him brighten up. Through the spiritual connection, he is actually using the mecha's eyes to observe the outside world. Li Fan stretches out his hands. Looking at his fully armed metal arms and the short by Lin Luo, Windsor, and the others in front of him, he is pleasantly surprised. This is too awesome. Bai Lin Luo is simply a genius imaginator. Then, he uses Li Family Island's technology to turn his imagination into reality, beginning energy acquisition. Energy reserve at 100%. In front of Li Fan is a data page. Next to it is a row of energy symbols, showing his energy reserve. Jun Shong, when you use this mech, because you want to increase your strength by 5 times, your energy consumption is also 5 times. Bai Lin Luo reminds him, therefore, you must control your energy output. Don't be too unrestrained. Understood. Bai Lin Luo claps his hands. The door next to him opens, revealing an armored vehicle. Let's use this for the strength test. Bai Lin Luo says, the armored vehicle is made of superalloy. Ordinary missiles can't penetrate it. Li Fan nods his head. With a leap of his feet, he immediately jumps in front of the armored vehicle. Sure enough, it is 5 times strengthening. Fortunately, he has already done intensive training. Otherwise, it would be a bit difficult to adapt. Although he is operating a mech, Li Fan feels that it is no different from controlling his own body. The mech is very flexible. Wherever he points, it hits without any delay. Azure Dragon Water Touch. With a stab of his leg, Li Fan directly kicked through the armored vehicle. The armored vehicle hangs on the leg of the Immortal Sovereign and is once again split open by his leg. Satisfying. Looking at the armored vehicle that he had destroyed, Li Fan felt a burst of excitement. He stretches out his left hand. His palm immediately gathers a huge amount of internal force. Dragon Spitting Pearl. A white gas bead with a diameter of 1 meter directly flew out. With a thud, it pierced through the wall of the laboratory, and then through several other walls, flying to a 10-story building that had just been built 300 meters away. Rumble. The tall building was instantly destroyed and collapsed with a loud bang. Li Fan was dumbfounded, and so was Bai Lin Luo. Hey! You just spent tens of millions of dollars. Bai Lin Luo did not know whether to laugh or cry. If it weren't for the fact that our mercenaries and the tourism industry are doing well, we would have gone bankrupt. My fault. Li Fan laughed dryly. He couldn't help but test his inner force. All right. This thing is indeed very powerful. Let's not test it. Once it's completed, I'll use it to defend against enemies. How terrifying. Windsor couldn't help feeling a little scared. Even some small countries might not be able to resist this kind of combat ability, right? Even if it was the United States, if Li Fan drove this thing in and made a scene, I'm afraid there would be countless casualties. Fortunately, Li Fan didn't have the idea of dominating the world. Otherwise, it would really be a disaster for all mankind. This was only half of the mecha's performance. The complete function had not been developed yet. Once it was perfect, what would it be like? Next is the training room. Bai Lin Luo ordered the workers to repair the wall. He took Li Fan and Windsor, who was visiting, to the next place. Because the training room involves some energy operation, it can only be built in the laboratory. If you want to practice in seclusion, you can only come to this place. Well, I'll practice when the time comes, and let my avatar handle other things for me. Once Li Fan entered the state of practice, he could let the inner force run naturally in his body, and then his avatar could handle the work of Li Jiadao under his own consciousness. After all, Li Fan couldn't do two things at the same time like Murong Ying. Her method was really too powerful. Ordinary people really couldn't learn it. Li Fan thought about it. He guessed that nine-tailed divine fox could do it too. After all, she was schizophrenic. I used Dragon Ball as a reference for the building of the training room. Bai Lin Luo explained to Li Fan as they walked, "We can't slow down time in the training room. It's too mythical. Technology can't achieve it at the moment. But it's still possible to change the gravity in the room. That's why I suddenly thought that if I let you practice in this kind of high-gravity environment, your progress might be even faster. It's worth a try." Li Fan nodded and followed him to the front of the gravity room. The gravity room wasn't big. It was a semicircle, like an upside-down pot. There were pipes around the house, which seemed to be used to change the gravity environment inside. Currently, the training room can achieve 50 times the gravity. Bai Lin Luo continued, "It should be able to improve in the future, but it still needs a certain amount of time to operate. You guys have too much black technology. Li Family Island is really not an ordinary place." Windsor couldn't help but ask, "These? I don't think I can report it. Once it's reported, your information may be leaked to those guys who want to destroy the world. Child, you've grown up." Li Fan's praise made Windsor roll her eyes. "Well, although I didn't get anything, I still have something to tell you." Windsor seemed to have thought it through. "The person called Martial Emperor in China has contacted all of your enemies. They are preparing to attack Li Family Island." "This is a very important information." Bai Lin Luo immediately asked, "How do you know?" "Of course I have my own information source. I can't tell you." Windsor remained mysterious. "But for this information, what are you going to use to pay for it? Do you need money?" "Of course not. The US government pays a lot of money to support me and number 9 every year." "Fuck. It's really a difference of treatment." Li Fan couldn't help but curl his lips. "Then what do you want?" "Just take it as you owe me a favor." Windsor thought for a moment and then said, "When I need it, you can pay it back to me." "Thank you very much. Our Li Family Island will remember this kindness." Li Fan thought for a moment, "If number 9 wants to learn some martial arts, he can come to me at any time." "I'm afraid not." Windsor knew number 9 too well. He will never agree. He has his own way of fighting. "That's true. I'm too talkative. Since you're here, you can play here for a few days." Li Fan said proudly, "Our Li Family Island has the world's largest amusement park, which is divided into 7 scenic areas. You can play for 3 days and 3 nights without finishing it. Next time." "This time I sneaked out. Number 9 must be looking for me all over the world." "Well, thank you again." After saying goodbye to Windsor, Li Fan couldn't wait to enter the training room. Chapter 1652. A martial emperor was very strong, especially after practicing the true immortal technique. And according to Windsor's intelligence, he had even contacted Jiang Feng this time. He was leading the heroes of the world and a group of volunteers from the United States to attack the Li Family Island. All these enemies together were very strong. If he lost, the Li Family Island that he had worked so hard to build would probably be gone. Li Fan asked Ling Tian to start investigating further. Based on the speed at which Martial Emperor and the others gathered and mobilized people, it would take at least 2 months to prepare to enter the Li Family Island. During these 2 months, Li Fan was racing against time to train in seclusion. After sending Windsor off, Li Fan entered the training room. In the training room, there was a nanomachine that was about the same height as Li Fan. This nanomachine was also used for training. In the training room, it could simulate any expert whose data had been recorded and fight against Li Fan. Because it was a gravitational space, Li Fan would be restrained by gravity. But the nanomachine had an anti-gravity system, so it strengthened the strength of the nanomachine from another aspect. In this training room, it could reach the strength of a martial emperor and the others. Li Fan was currently using 20 times the gravity. He was practicing boxing in the room to train himself. Training in such a place was indeed very draining, and the effects were doubled. Even meditating and regulating one's breath would require a lot of effort to complete. This was because Li Fan's meditation method was different from ordinary people. Unlike ordinary people, who just needed to sit cross-legged and look down. But Li Fan had to stand on one leg with one hand facing the sky and the other facing the ground in order to make the Taiji diagram operate fully. In addition, in order to coordinate with Li Fan's Taiji diagram, Bai Lin Luo set up 8 nano-cores in 8 directions in the room. These 8 nano-cores could absorb Li Fan's internal energy and then be sucked back into Li Fan's body. It could be said that Bai Lin Luo had thought of everything. In particular, the 8 nano-cores recorded 8 different types of internal strength and energy. This was also suitable for Li Fan's Taiji painting to practice. Li Fan was racing against time. He spent almost every day in the training room. At first, it was 10 times, but now it was 20 times. After more than half a month, Li Fan used the walkie-talkie to ask the staff outside to change the training room to 30 times the gravity. As soon as the 30x gravity was activated, Li Fan immediately found it difficult to breathe. Under such gravity, ordinary humans would not be able to survive. Even Li Fan couldn't rely on his own physical strength to survive. He had to fill every cell in his body with inner force to strengthen his body and ensure that he could survive under 30 times the gravity instead of being squeezed into a meat patty. In this way, he could train his physical body and his inner force, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. It took Li Fan another half a month to adapt to the 30-fold gravity. In this gravitational environment, he continued to train his fist technique. In the remaining month, Li Fan had the nano-robots act as the martial monarch. Although he couldn't change the robot's appearance, the robot's attack method immediately became the martial monarch's appearance. The nano-cores on its body began to operate, and the robot reached the strength of a martial monarch under 30 times the gravity. It began to exchange blows with Li Fan. If one robot wasn't enough, Li Fan even asked them to send another robot over. He had the other robot maintain Jiang Feng's appearance and fight with him together with the martial monarch. In this training room, Li Fan perfectly fused his Thunder Dragon Saber with the Dragon Subduing Terrace, forming a new set of martial arts. Li Fan temporarily named it the Subduing Dragon Tiger Technique. While Li Fan was training hard, the martial monarch's 100 immortal slaves were also completed. He stood in a warehouse and looked at the 100 warriors with beast heads in front of him. They were drooling as they stood there, panting heavily. Just looking at them made one's scalp go numb. Your army has been completed. You stood beside the martial monarch, her voice was filled with pride. Every one of them has the strength of a grandmaster. They are definitely a huge fighting force in your hand. Some of the outstanding 10-man leaders have the strength of a half-saint. And this 100-man leader has the strength of a saint. A bearman stood there with his arms wide open. He roared, causing the entire warehouse to shake. The martial monarch was indeed a little shocked. He could casually nurture such a powerful fighting strength. Saint level? Half-saint level? Since you have the ability to nurture such an army, why do you need my help? This is an opportunity given to you by the skies beyond. I just want to test you. You said in all seriousness, you should cherish the opportunity we have given you. After all, we also want to recruit some talents that can help us. So it's like that, then I really have to thank you. The martial monarch sneered in his heart. Only a ghost would believe such a reason. Probably even the skies beyond would barely be able to take out 100 so-called immortal ascension pills. Furthermore, these so-called half-saints have the strength of a saint, which is actually an exaggeration. These 100 of them might seem to have decent fighting strength, but Li Fan alone can flatten them all. These things might be able to deal with normal experts, but against top experts like Li Fan and Jiang Feng, it is definitely not enough. The skies beyond may look strong, but in reality, they are just outwardly strong but inwardly weak. Perhaps in their territory, they are indeed powerful. Those heaven immortals can kill 100 of them with a single slap. But on earth, they can only obediently cooperate with him and listen to his opinion. Therefore, before they truly descend to earth, he must fight for the greatest benefits and also cultivate the strongest power. In this world, The weak are prey to the strong. This has always been the unchanging truth. The so-called cooperation and agreement are all nonsense. If he does not have absolute strength, those experts from the skies beyond can still turn hostile and ignore him. The army is ready. When do we trample over the Lee family island? You asked. No rush. The martial monarch waved his hand. The troops from the various countries have not gathered yet. It is not too late to go to the Lee family island when they are all here. Those people are just trash. Why bring them along? The more power we have, the higher our chances of winning. The martial monarch looked coldly at you. If you still look down on the enemy Lee Fan, then we can only terminate our cooperation. I am just afraid that a long delay will bring trouble. You were slightly unhappy. How much more time do you need? A month later, the army will trample over the Lee family island. The martial monarch said in his heart, as long as Jiang Feng joins hands with him, along with the heroes of the pugilistic world, the elites of the various countries, and the secret help of the United States, he will definitely be able to trample over the Lee family island. Li Fan, enjoy your remaining time. Chapter 1653. A month later, the martial emperor and Jiang Feng stood together. It could be considered as a victory meeting. Jiang Feng looked behind the martial emperor, at the 100 helmeted and armored warriors, and could not help but frown. This is your army. You can say so. They will be the vanguard of our expedition against the Lee family island. The martial emperor nodded. He did not want to reveal the identity of these troops. If Jiang Feng knew that these were the army of the sky beyond sky, it was hard to guarantee that he would not have other methods waiting for him. But Jiang Feng's expression was not that good. He could feel a terrifying threat from these armored warriors. They were all very strong. If these guys were to be pulled together, not to mention anything else, destroying a few countries would be an easy task. With this kind of army, what was the martial emperor afraid of? Jiang Feng thought, luckily I have preserved a certain amount of strength and placed it in the headquarters. Otherwise, if all my people died in this joint operation, how can I fight against the martial emperor? Fortunately, it was not only him, there were also many elites from other countries. There were at least 1,000 experts standing on the ships that were preparing to go, waiting to attack the Lee family island. That small Lee family island had become almost everyone's nightmare. Jiang Feng looked at these people and could not help but mutter in his heart. Back then, even against the demon nine-tailed divine fox, there was no such lineup. Now that he thought about it, it was a little ironic. With such a huge army, attacking the Lee family island should be a piece of cake. Niu Shuiyan stood in the crowd. He led a few experts from the heroic martial sect and said arrogantly, "Don't look down on Li Fan." Jiang Feng reminded Niu Shuiyan, in terms of martial arts, among us, only the martial emperor can compete with him. No matter how many people there are, they won't be able to handle so many expert. Niu Shuiyan scoffed, "You guys are too deified by Li Fan. How can he be so strong? Is he a god? He can't be considered a god, but his strength is already close to that of an immortal." The martial emperor was not like before. He was very serious about the strength of his opponents. The fact that Li Fan's strength was comparable to his, who had cultivated the perfected immortal art and had activated his Dharma body, and Li Fan had even defeated him. This meant that Li Fan's strength was no less than that of an exalted immortal. With such a powerful master, what could a few hundred martial arts masters do to him? We still need to use some true experts to restrain him. As the martial monarch spoke, he glanced at the Beastmen army and felt that they were not strong enough. It would be great if all his gold and silver were here. As long as he nurtured them well, they would definitely become outstanding combat power. Also, the current Liao Qianqian was not bad. Li Fan had used some unknown method to change her physique so that she was no longer an internal energy insulator. What kind of talent did he have? How could his daughter be inferior? If he could flatten the Li family island this time, he would bring Liao Qianqian back. This way, he would be able to carry forward his martial art. He could also have a helper and would no longer be restrained by the realm beyond heaven. "I will help you restrain him." Jiang Feng reassured the martial monarch, "Although I don't have the ability to defeat him, I can still help you restrain him. Commander Jiang, why are you so modest? The martial monarch laughed. I remember that you were also the one who defeated me back then. Moreover, on the martial arts field, the strength you displayed was not much weaker than Li Fan. Azura Chi, Azura appearance, this is something that is rarely seen in hundreds of years. Even if it is Azura appearance, how can it be compared to the perfected immortal art? Jiang Feng sighed softly. The perfected immortal art's Dharma body is really enviable and powerful. Don't worry, I will pass you 3 pages of the perfected immortal art. The martial monarch suddenly transmitted his voice, causing Jiang Feng to be overjoyed. What you said, is it true? Of course it is true. However, you must also cooperate with me. The martial monarch continued to rope in Jiang Feng. I lack a person by my side. I know your wish is to destroy the Chinese martial arts world. This does not interfere with my wish. If you join forces with me, even if we can't deal with the sky beyond heaven, we can still survive in my own small country. In that place, I will not allow the so-called Jianghu to exist. The martial monarch said half-truthfully. Good, this is really too good. From today onwards, I will follow your lead. To be able to obtain the perfected immortal art, this was simply a huge favor to Jiang Feng. As long as he obtained the perfected immortal art, why would he worry about not being able to defeat Li Fan? This sea journey is long. I will now pass you 3 pages of the perfected immortal art. The martial monarch laughed and transmitted his voice to Jiang Feng. As long as you do not betray me, in the future when the world is under control, I will definitely pass you the last 4 pages. Long live your majesty, the martial monarch. Jiang Feng was ecstatic. Then he memorized the 3 pages of the perfected immortal art that the martial monarch passed to him. The distance on the sea was not close. With the speed of their ship, it would probably take them a day to reach the Li family island. A day's time was enough for Jiang Feng to completely digest the 3 pages of the perfected immortal art and then circulate it freely. As if Jiang Feng had obtained a treasure, during the voyage, he did not leave the cabin at all. He just sat in the cabin and wholeheartedly studied his set of perfected immortal art. The perfected immortal art is indeed ingenious. After Jiang Feng circulated the perfected immortal art once in his body, his Azura Chi and immortal Chi fused into one. This power was no longer controlled by him, but leaked out, forming a 3-meter-long black tiger, lying in front of him, letting out a series of low roars. As expected, the external release of energy has condensed. Jiang Feng looked at the fierce tiger in front of him and muttered, if I only rely on the external release of energy, it will be very difficult to defeat the martial monarch and Li Fan. I have to think of a way to make the energy listen to me and gather it on my body. Jiang Feng was not like the martial monarch, who could rely on the Azure Dragon's ability to transform this energy into armor and wear it on his body. If he rashly compressed it on his body, he was afraid that his body would explode into minced meat. If I can't condense it on my body, I can condense it on other places. There were many nano-cores in Jiang Feng's body. Even if he did not rely on the Azura Chi, his own ability was still very strong. Therefore, all he needed to do was to circulate this energy better. Now that things have come to this, is there only Murong's sword technique left? Jiang Feng suddenly came up with a plan. He took out an alloy sword from the box beside him. This alloy sword was just bought by him from the United States at a high price. This kind of sword was implanted with 2 nano-cores, and the material itself was made of a super alloy, which had a very strong energy absorption ability. Jiang Feng originally planned to use it on the Dragon God No. 1's energy absorption, but now it seemed that there was a better use for it. Hey, third brother, wait for the surprise I have for you this time. Chapter 1654. One day later, the Martial Emperor's ship finally landed on the Li family island. Li family island's area was not particularly large, it was only half the size of Beijing. The central area of Li family island was a huge amusement park, known as the world's largest amusement park. Even Disney couldn't compare. This amusement park occupied almost 1/5 of Li family island's area. One trip inside, let alone 3 days and 3 nights, even 7 days and 7 nights was not a problem. This kind of super amusement park, although the daily maintenance cost was not low, it attracted an endless stream of tourists. In the amusement park, not only were there various amusement parks, but there were also various special areas. For example, gambling areas like Las Vegas, where gambling was completely legal, but the taxes were also very high. There was also a red light district. Of course, this part of the area belonged to adults. Minors were absolutely not allowed to enter. This was the effect that Li Fan wanted. As long as you had money, you could enjoy a heavenly feeling in this place. Also, there was no need to worry about your safety. You could even spend money to hire security police to protect your travel all day long. After all, everyone in the world knew that Li Family Island was an island with the #1 mercenary group. Here, enjoyment and safety coexisted. Many families with the means, as well as those local tyrants and evil gentry, were willing to come to Li Family Island to spend as much as they wanted, burning money like crazy. This also made Li Family Island's wallet more and more full. This is Li Family Island. Why is it so prosperous? Niu Shuiyan looked at the prosperous and lively port of Li Family Island. He could not help but frown. Wasn't it just a small broken island? He heard that a few years ago, there was a war here every day. The people on the island either died or fled. There were not many people left. It had only been a few years, and this broken island had actually become so prosperous. Friends who have come from afar. Just as the ship was about to land on the island, 4 great sword guard mechs flew over from the sky and landed at the 4 corners of the ship. Each mech held a magnetic storm spear and aimed it at the ship. And one of the mechas reminded, "Please disembark at Port 3, thank you for your cooperation." What is this? Seeing the mechas flying in the air, Niu Shuiyan was dumbfounded. This is the Great Sword Guard, the strategic weapon of the Li Family Island. Jiang Feng explained, currently, it's the world's top strategic weapon, and it's not for sale. Some of the American experts at the side were very jealous. The birth of the Great Sword Guards announced that the United States was no longer the world's most advanced military country. 4 Great Sword Guards are enough to destroy our ship. Do as they say. Jiang Feng gave a suggestion. Based on Li Fan's personality, he probably wants us to fight in a place with no one around. That way, innocent people won't get involved. Why should I care about them? The martial emperor snorted coldly, and Jiang Feng continued to give suggestions. Your Majesty, martial monarch, if we were to fight somewhere else, it would definitely harm many innocent people. In that case, we will become the enemies of the entire world. For now, it's not suitable for us to have too many enemies. Why should we do whatever they say? Niu Shuiyan also objected. Maybe they have set a trap for us and are waiting for us to walk right into it. Li Fan, that coward, he's definitely scared. I understand Li Fan better than you. Jiang Feng glanced at Niu Shuiyan, and only felt that this brother was the same as his second uncle, a fellow whose head was filled with pace. Are you very proud? Understanding an enemy? Why not? Jiang Feng completely defeated Niu Shuiyan in bickering. There is a saying in the art of war, know yourself and know your enemy, and you will never be defeated. Haven't you heard of it? Humph. Niu Shuiyan also realized that he couldn't win against Jiang Feng. I think you are afraid of that Li Fan. Whether I am afraid or not, it's hard for me to say. I only know that I fought with him for hundreds of rounds before I was able to determine the victor. Some people were defeated in 3 moves. You. Niu Shuiyan gritted his teeth in anger. This bastard, when he returned, he would definitely get his second uncle to punish him. All right, stop arguing. The martial emperor stretched out his hand and stopped their quarrel. No matter what methods they use, we are not afraid. Since they want a battlefield, we will satisfy them. Inform the captain to sail to the 3rd port. Thank you for your cooperation. Please follow us. The 4 great sword guardians guided them as they continued to sail towards the east. After walking for a short distance, everyone's eyes lit up as they looked in surprise at a huge platform on the surface of the sea. This platform was almost 10,000 square meters. It was a huge place, and it was very spacious. There was only a huge castle. And on top of it, there was only one man, Li Fan. After the 4 great sword guardians guided everyone over, they stood on 4 pillars on the 4 sides, like statues. Li Fan, You are very courageous. The martial emperor directly leaped from the ship, jumping tens of meters and landing on the platform. From afar, he looked at Li Fan and said, "You are actually going to face my alliance army by yourself? I do not dare to be negligent." Li Fan cupped his fists. "My people are naturally here as well." With that, from a tall tower on the side of the island, over 107 hero sword guardians suddenly jumped down. These sword guardians each held a sharp 7 hero sword in their hands, standing behind Li Fan. Then, a beautiful woman in white descended from the sky, standing in front of everyone, attracting the gazes of countless men, who were unwilling to look away. This was Imperial Concubine Ju, the undying evil Buddha, one of Li Fan's harem. "Old Guan, let's see who can kill more people today." Another handsome Daoist priest, who was even more beautiful than a woman, floated down with his qinggong. "Ox nose, your martial arts are not suitable for killing people." Another red-faced man wearing a green robe, holding a crescent moonblade, rode a tall warhorse, separated the crowd, and walked out. "Two guardians, don't forget about the two of us." Le Xiaohu and Jiang Yi walked out as well. Both of them were Li Fan's proud disciples. Naturally they wanted to join in at this time. Amitabha. Big monk Subhuti also ran out to join in the fun. This time, this poor monk can finally have a good fight. "After this, I still have to preach to the female benefactors, so please hurry up." Another 6 great sword guardians flew over and landed on the artificial island. This artificial island was originally intended to be used as a luxurious water hotel, with a very complete set of community facilities. But now, it was used as a battlefield, so that the innocent people on the island would not be affected. Today, here, Li Fan vowed to defend the Li family island with his life. "Everyone, go ahead." Bai Lin Luo stood at the back and patted the summoned angel beside him. "That's enough milk pipe." Chapter 1655. On Li Fan's side, there are many talents, causing the martial emperor to be extremely jealous. Furthermore, he knows that this should only be a portion of Li Fan's power. There should still be a portion of his power hidden on the island. Li Family Island welcomes everyone to challenge us. Li Fan points to the newly built castle behind him. This castle is the future Super Castle Hotel, and it has just been completed not long ago. After the surrounding facilities are completed, it will officially open for business. At this moment, Li Fan plans to make good use of this place and give the martial emperor and the rest a little surprise. "Since everyone wants to deal with me, Li Fan, I will give everyone 2 choices." Li Fan raises 2 fingers. "First, follow my rules and participate in the challenge game that I have arranged for everyone. If I lose, I, Li Fan, will be at your disposal. Second, engage in a chaotic battle here. Life and death are up to fate. My Li family island, my 7 Knights villa is not afraid. Kill, kill, kill." All of the sword guards raise their swords and roar 3 times, their killing intent shaking the sky. "Hehe, I think you are crazy." Niu Shuiyan has already come down and cannot help but laugh at Li Fan. "Do you see how many people we have? Over 1,000 people. Why should we follow your way? We can easily kill all of you." "Is that so?" Li Fan snaps his fingers, and over 100 sword guards form a strange sword formation, and actually surround the 1,000 expert. There are 108 7 Knights sword guards here, and they are using the Super 4 Divisions sword formation. Li Fan smiles. "Everyone, feel free to try and see if you can break through their defense." "Oh, right, if the martial emperor and Jiang Feng make a move, Imperial Concubine Ju and I will personally accompany you 2 to play." "Hehe, do you think we are afraid of you?" The martial emperor is angered by this. He actually wants to follow his rules. "Who is the high and mighty martial emperor?" 2 teams of 10, break this dogbird sword formation for me. The martial emperor bellowed, and the 20 beast-headed warriors charged towards a sword formation. Vermilion bird sword array. All the sword guards suddenly swung the swords in their hands. Streaks of flames passed in front of them, and the 20 or so beastman warriors were directly beheaded, their bodies burnt to a crisp. The battle prowess displayed by the sword formation shocked the martial emperors and the others. Not to mention that there were more than a dozen Master Realm experts. There were also 2 half-saint experts who were somewhat weak. How could they be killed just like that? The martial monarch noticed with slight despair that besides himself and Jiang Feng, anyone else that encountered this sword formation would definitely die. Yu's bullshit 100-man team was useless. Under the opponent's 100-man sword formation, they were no match at all. Sure enough, Li Fan had long been prepared. He actually had such a strong defensive power. If he didn't make a move, how was he supposed to break this 100-man sword formation? I don't believe that you'll be able to block our charge, Niu Shuiyan roared. Of course, it's impossible. Li Fan did not overestimate his own strength. However, in order to fight with all of you, I have the mentality of cutting off all means of retreat. Great Sword Guardians. Li Fan gave the order, and the 4 great sword guards who had led the crowd here suddenly took out another machine cannon from their backs and aimed it downwards. Actually, I feel that having money is also a good thing. Li Fan chuckled. A few days ago, I was idle and bought 4 nuclear warheads from a certain country. Although the power is not great, it can flatten this artificial island. You're crazy. When Niu Shuiyan heard nuclear warheads, he had the urge to pee his pants. Fuck, although he was a martial artist and a Master Realm expert, he was still a mortal. How could he go against a nuclear warhead? It's just a small method to protect myself. Li Fan shrugged his shoulders. After all, I am very weak. Please forgive me. Fuck, how shameless. I don't believe that you have nuclear warheads here. Jiang Feng questioned Li Fan. Do you think that you can buy nuclear warheads whenever you want? If you don't believe me, feel free to try. Li Fan chuckled. Why don't you see if I have nuclear warheads or not? No one dared to try. Li Family Island had such advanced technology. Not to mention buying nuclear warheads, even if they were to develop it themselves, people would believe it. So, you only left one path for us. Jiang Feng already understood. If it was a decisive battle, it would be the last resort. Since you are here, we might as well play with you. The martial emperor crossed his arms and said in a loud voice, Tell us, how do you plan to play? Everyone seems to be here to suppress me. I feel like I am a demon king. Li Fan said, Since that is the case, why don't everyone give it a try? Let's have a game of the brave fighting the evil dragon. Do you see the castle behind me? I am waiting for you in the deepest part of the castle. But in the castle, my brothers will stop you. You can choose 5 representatives to enter here and challenge me. As long as you can get through my castle, you win. How about it? You are really shameless. You actually used this method to weaken our fighting strength. Niu Shuiyan couldn't help but curse. Since you are in my territory, you naturally have to do it my way. Li Fan didn't care about his ridicule. Isn't there a saying, I call the shots in my territory? It is better to say that the fist is the hard truth. Jiang Feng looked around at the great sword guards who were preparing to launch nuclear warheads and snorted, Since the martial emperor has decided to participate in your game, I naturally have no objection. However, I also have a condition. Sure, please say it. We want to increase the quota from 5 people to 8 people. Jiang Feng immediately stated his condition. Moreover, if someone loses their fighting strength, we have the right to replenish the quota. 6 people. Li Fan haggled like he was buying vegetables. You can replenish the quota, but the replenishment must leave the castle and start from the beginning. Sure. Jiang Feng said in his heart, the previous people who were defeated by us. What's the harm in starting from the beginning? Then it is settled. The game can start now. Li Fan chuckled and reminded everyone, finally, I welcome everyone to Li Family Island. Let us start this game. As Li Fan said this, he turned around and walked into the castle. Bai Lin Luo and the others followed and walked in. The great sword guards stayed behind and guarded the castle. I am so unhappy. We are already here and we still have to listen to them. Niu Shuiyan was very dissatisfied and shouted at Jiang Feng, You cowards, why don't you just make a move? If you want to make a move, then go ahead. Jiang Feng didn't stop him. We will not oppose you. We will even cheer for you. Chapter 1656. Niu Shuiyan puffed and puffed for a long time, but in the end, he obediently stood in the crowd and did not make a sound. With Li Jiadao's battle strength, Niu Shuiyan's people were useless. Even if he went up, he would only be humiliating himself. He might as well stay here and follow these people to suppress Li Fan. Let's choose 6 people first. The martial emperor looked at the crowd. These 6 people were extremely important. Since that's the case, count me in. Jiang Feng immediately took a step forward and stood next to the martial monarch in tacit understanding. Oh right, I brought an expert with me. Cheng Mohan, come here. A beautiful woman in black walked out and stood beside Jiang Feng. Cheng Mohan used to be a loyal member of the Imperial Secret Service, but no matter how hard she tried, the Imperial Secret Service was still destroyed. In the end, she was still found by Jiang Feng and persuaded to join him as a general of the Imperial Army. To be honest, the martial emperor was a little envious. Not to mention others, even if heartless Blade Yushi was still here, she would at least be a great help to him. Unfortunately, Yushi had already disappeared in the vast sea of people, and he could not find her at all. Sigh, he had lost all his talent. Right now, there was only Jiang Feng by his side, but how could this Jiang Feng wholeheartedly assist him? Sigh, he really regretted leaving an elite to assist him back then. This time, he must destroy all the experts under Li Fan and make Li Fan lose all his support. This way, Li Fan, who had lost his right-hand man, would no longer be a threat. I'll be the 4th. Niu Shuiyan did not want to wait outside. He immediately took a step forward and walked to Jiang Feng's side. The martial emperor looked at him coldly, but did not say anything. To the martial emperor, other than Jiang Feng, the rest of these people were trash, and it made no difference whether he brought them or not. Although you had decent battle strength, because of the restrictions of the sky beyond heaven, he could not make a move, so he would just watch the battle. 100-man commander, you go too. You ordered, and the 100-man commander, whose bare head was covered by his helmet, let out a terrifying beast roar, and then walked towards the martial emperor. Is there another candidate? The martial emperor was a little impatient. It's useless to bring too much trash, just 5 is enough. Jiang Feng was a little helpless. This guy was really wasting the opportunity that he fought for. Actually, he didn't know that the martial monarch's temper had already changed a lot. If it was in the past, he would not have brought anyone with him. He believed that he could solve everything by himself. However, he really looked down on the people around him. They claimed to be elites, but they were actually just a motley crew. One more person means one more guarantee. Jiang Feng chuckled. He realized that the martial emperor had no intention of refusing, so he glanced at the crowd. Long Fengyu, Alliance Master Long, the people of Jianghu all say that you are incomparably intelligent, and that you can plan out the world. Why don't you help us out? Not at all, not at all. It's just the Jianghu brothers showing their favor. Long Fengyu politely said, however, if you need it, this Long is willing to do his part. Then let's keep up. The martial emperor flung his robe and walked into the castle. In this so-called game, he will be the final winner. He wants to completely kill Li Fan. He wants to flatten the entire Li family island. The others hurriedly followed behind the martial emperor. These people all knew that the martial emperor was their strongest fighting strength. And that 100-man commander is currently loyal and devoted to the martial emperor, closely following him, not leaving him by even an inch. The group of 6, under the gazes of the others, walked into the huge ancient castle. The ancient castle has a total of 5 floors. Who knows what is waiting for them inside? But to the martial emperor, even if the god of heaven is blocking in front of him, he will definitely beat him up. Those who block me will be killed without mercy. The martial emperor walked towards the ancient castle, but in front of the ancient castle, a bald monk is standing there, clasping his hands together and bowing to them. Amitabha, benefactors, the sea of bitterness is boundless, repent and be saved. Where did this monk come from? Scram to the side. Niu Shuiyan did not know Subhuti. When he saw Subhuti's smile, he became angry. I can't beat the martial emperor, but I can't beat a stinky monk like you. In order to show off his might, Nyo Shuian directly leaped over and punched Subhuti in the chest. According to the strength of Nyo Shuian's fist, even a bull would fall to the ground and die under his fists. But the monk still had a smile on his face, as if nothing had happened. He even stretched out his hand and helped Nyo Shuian brush off the dust on his clothes. "Look at you, your clothes are all dirty. This poor monk will help you clean them. Clean your grandpa." Nyo Shuian immediately followed up with another kick, landing on Subhuti's chest. Tap, tap, tap. Subhuti did not move an inch, but Nyo Shuian took 3 steps back. His left leg was numb, and he almost could not stand and knelt on the ground. This guy, could it be a robot? Could it be that the Li family island has developed a Terminator? Nyo Shuian rubbed his leg and asked in shock. The martial emperor could not be bothered with this clown. He looked at Subhuti with interest. Indestructible Vajra body? After so many years, I never thought that I would still be able to see someone with this kind of talent. Abnormal bone changing, turning void into reality, heart demon unity, and your indestructible Vajra body. Oh right, there's also the Azura devil chi. This era is really different from the rest. Amitabha, making benefactor happy can be considered this poor monk's accumulation of merit. It's not easy to have a skill like yours. But if you die, it would be a pity. The martial emperor began to poach. Why don't you come to my side? When I conquer this world, I will make you the grand preceptor and make Buddhism the national religion. How about it? Amitabha, benefactor's words have indeed moved this poor monk a little. Subhuti put his palms together, looking like he was bemoaning the state of the universe and pitying the fate of mankind, but this poor monk already has a greater belief. Oh, Master, do you have any great wishes? It can't be considered a great wish. This poor monk only wishes to purify all the female benefactors in the world. Amitabha, Amitabha. The martial emperor suddenly did not want to speak. Your Excellency's golden body technique is indeed not bad. Long Fengyu walked out and said to Subhuti, but no matter what kind of golden body technique it is, your body will definitely have a weak point. This person should be Master Subhuti, right? Why don't you let me guess, where is your weak point? This is making this poor monk feel embarrassed. Subhuti covered his face and said, let's find a female benefactor to try. Everyone was a little speechless. This guy is actually a playboy monk. I never thought that a person who has mastered the golden body technique would actually not be able to sever the mortal world. Amitabha, the body is in the mortal world, the heart is outside the mortal world. Chapter 1657. Subhuti did not care what the other party asked and answered fluently. He is this kind of person, tempering himself in the mortal world. But Subhuti's martial arts are not for show. His skin is emitting a faint bronze glow, as if his body has really been plated with gold. He just stands there like a real Buddha, causing some people to feel ashamed, not daring to look at him. Since Master has agreed, how about I try? Long Fengyu said as he stretched out his hand and took out a golden sword from the box on his back. Hey! Golden dragon sword? Seeing this sword, the martial emperor also recognized it, and he even called out the name of the sword. Your Majesty martial emperor recognizes this sword? I have seen it before many years ago. Martial emperor nodded. Back then, there was a swordsman known as Golden Dragon Swordsman. He held a sword that was sealed with gold and plated with silver. It was said to be a replica of the Shongfang sword, able to slay gods and Buddhas. I really did not expect that I would be able to see this sword today. It is rare. Martial emperor's old posture, the appearance of a great expert, made others unable to find any fault with him. There is no other way, he is indeed a veteran. Since it is a fake Shongfang sword, why don't you test its power? Long Fengyu did not know where he got this sword from. He held the sword and stood in front of Subhuti as he asked with a smile. Master, is it possible? Can't you find a female benefactor? Master can also see, according to the rules of the game, there are only 6 of us. Long Fengyu shrugged his shoulders, there is no woman. This benefactor bear is a female. Subhuti pointed at the 100-man-tall man. It was clearly wearing a helmet, but for some reason, Subhuti saw through it with a glance. What a pity, what a pity. She looks a little ugly. Amitabha, this poor monk has seen through her appearance. I have sinned. Martial Emperor looked at Subhuti coldly. This monk is indeed extraordinary, but he is after all someone from Li Fan's side. He can only be defeated by me. Master has profound dharma, you will definitely not mind. Long Fangyu said as he suddenly thrusted his sword towards Subhuti's throat. Subhuti did not dodge, allowing Long Fangyu's sword to stab into his throat. He was still standing there, his eyes shining with kindness as he chanted Amitabha. This treasured sword, which could cut through iron as if it were mud, was unable to pierce through Subhuti's throat at all. What an invincible Vajra body! Jiang Feng clapped his hands and praised, even such a treasured sword can't do anything to it. Amazing! Jiang Feng was indeed impressed. With this kind of golden body technique, it was really a great advantage. If Li Fan or himself, or even a martial emperor knew this kind of martial arts, they would be able to do whatever they wanted in the world. Don't worry, Master. I still want to try again. As Long Fangyu spoke, he gripped his sword with both hands and stabbed it towards Puti's eyes. Clang! Subhuti closed his eyes and used his eyelids to block the sword. There were actually golden sparks bursting out, causing Long Fangyu to feel apprehensive. He muttered in his heart, my goodness, this invincible Vajra body is really not just for show. It's a little too awesome. Even the eyes are not a weakness. Now, try the perineum. Long Fangyu was quite the evil one. He immediately stabbed his sword towards Subhuti's crotch. However, Subhuti did not panic at all. He just stood there and allowed Long Fangyu to stab him. Amitabha, is Benefactor happy now? Subhuti trained until his crotch turned into an iron crotch, causing Long Fangyu to break out in cold sweat. You must have a vital gait. That's right, you're back. Long Fangyu carried his sword and walked towards Subhuti's back. Subhuti turned pale with fright and covered his buttocks with his hands. Amitabha, you can't do that. Ha ha ha, it seems like your vital gait is right here. Master, we had an agreement, it is not up to you anymore. While speaking, the bare-headed man stepped forward and grabbed Subhuti's hands, not letting Subhuti block his chrysanthemum. Master, I'm sorry. In your next life, cultivate Buddha properly. Long Fangyu stabbed Subhuti's chrysanthemum. However, with a clang sound, the sword directly broke. Amitabha, I have sinned, I have sinned. Under Long Fangyu's dumbstruck gaze, Subhuti shook off the bare-headed man, took a step back, clasped his hands together and started chanting Buddhist scriptures. You tricked me. Long Fangyu suddenly understood and looked at Subhuti gloomily. When did this poor monk trick Benefactor? Subhuti put on an innocent look. Since it is not your vital gait, why are you protecting it so tightly? Amitabha, why is Benefactor asking this poor monk? Subhuti asked Long Fangyu in turn, could it be that sire likes to have your chrysanthemum stabbed? Long Fangyu has always been intelligent, but this time, he was actually rendered speechless by Subhuti's question. Master looks simple, but in reality, you are intelligent and cunning. Jiang Feng waved his fan and chuckled, Master has this indestructible golden body, you are indeed in an invincible position. However, if Master wants to stop us, it is still not enough. Oh! Benefactor, what brilliant plan do you have? Master, why don't we make a bet? Jiang Feng closed his fan and pointed at the castle door and said, since Master is guarding here, Li Fan will definitely think that you are an invincible door god. However, if we can enter this door, we will win. How about it? Amitabha, of course. Subhuti is not unreasonable, as long as the few of you can break through this poor monk's defense and enter the castle from the main door, it will be your victory. Moreover, this poor monk is a monk and is not allowed to harm others. So this poor monk will not attack you, please do as you please. Then what are you waiting for? Everyone attack together. Hearing this, Niu Shuiyan became spirited as he stepped forward and attacked Subhuti. Under the command of the martial emperor, the bear man also stepped forward and attacked Subhuti together with Niu Shuiyan. Long Fangyu took out another sword and released sword energy as he slashed at Subhuti. However, even after the three of them messed around for a long time, there was no effect. Azura tiger. Jiang Feng slapped his fan and a black tiger jumped out from behind him. The huge black tiger pounced at Subhuti and bit him in its mouth. With a crunching sound, two of the tiger's teeth were knocked out, while Subhuti was completely fine. This emperor does not believe it. The martial emperor is also a bit angry. He is just a monk, although his talent is outstanding. How can he stop this emperor? All of you, get out of my way. He waved his hand and the people who are attacking Subhuti scattered. The martial emperor directly stepped forward, wrapped in dragon immortal power and heavily slapped Subhuti's chest with his palm. Stab. Subhuti's body slid a meter away, but he stomped on the ground and stabilized his body. His body lit up with golden light as if his golden body was lit up, causing the martial emperor to frown. Amitabha, benefactor has great strength. Subhuti clasped his hands together and said to the martial emperor, but if you want to defeat this poor monk, you are still lacking a bit. This monk is actually provoking me. Chapter 1658. Subhuti seemed to be quite happy today, and actually took the initiative to provoke him. What kind of temper did the martial monarch have? He was originally unconvinced and unafraid. Now that he was provoked by a monk, he was even more furious. You're courting death. The martial monarch's body ignited with golden flames, and a golden dragon armor was immediately worn by him. Immortal, Yellow Emperor rides the dragon. The martial monarch instantly stepped forward and fiercely slammed his palm onto Subhuti's chest. A golden draconic aura instantly exploded out from behind Subhuti. Subhuti's feet were rooted to the ground, and the ground beneath his feet cracked layer by layer. His golden body was also affected, and dark red blood flowed out of his 7 apertures. It was obvious that the martial monarch's powerful move had injured Subhuti. What indestructible body, it's only SOSO. Seeing that, Niu Shuiyan could not help but laugh out loud. Shut up. The martial monarch berated him, causing Niu Shuiyan to shut his mouth dejectedly. The martial monarch held his hands behind his back, pressing down on his trembling palms, and said, Master's divine arts are indeed extraordinary. This indestructible body of Vajra has actually been trained to the realm of rebound. Amitabha, that's right. Subhuti laughed. This is called one prosper together, one suffer together. What a good one prosper together, one suffer together. The martial monarch narrowed his eyes. Li Fan, this fellow, really did not have any good intentions. He had made such a big monk here, it was clear that he wanted to consume his own strength. If he wanted to determine victory or defeat with him, he could still do it. But in this way, he would definitely consume a lot of immortal energy. This would be detrimental to his future battles. Your Majesty, don't worry, I already have a way. Jiang Feng closed his fan and gave Cheng Mohan a look. The latter nodded and took off the zither from his back. He stepped on the ground with one leg and raised his other leg to hold the zither. He stood there and plucked the zither strings. A burst of rapid warhorse music immediately resounded outside the castle gate. Some of the weaker people in the surroundings, upon hearing this music, immediately covered their ears and knelt on the ground in pain, wailing incessantly. All of them were bleeding from their 7 apertures, and they looked as miserable as they could be. As for Jiang Feng and the others, it was because Cheng Mohan's music had a directional nature, and basically only affected Subhuti. As for the others, they couldn't stand it because their cultivation was too low. Subhuti, who had been as steady as a diamond or a boulder, upon hearing this music, suddenly began to tremble, and his eyes began to glow with a red light. Sabotage from the inside. The martial emperor crossed his arms and guessed, shatter the monk's heart with music. That shouldn't be possible. The reason why the invincible Vajra body was so strong was because it had been trained to the 5 viscera and 6 bowels. Even after death, their bodies could not be destroyed. In the past, there were such eminent monks, but in the end, they were all immortal, so they were simply plated with gold lacquer and worshipped in temples. It was probably impossible to use powerful music to break down the insides of the indestructible body, right? The martial emperor was also on guard. With Li Fan and Jiang Feng's special abilities, one could devour, while the other could be killed to inherit abilities. Therefore, both of them had a way to obtain the invincible Vajra body. Once they got their hands on it, it would be too terrifying. It's not internal sabotage, Jiang Feng said, the invincible Vajra body. Before I came here, I already understood this technique. If you want to practice this kind of martial art, you must at least have a heart as firm as a rock. Oh, what do you mean? This song is secretly demonic. Jiang Feng was quick-witted. He continued, Alliance Master Long's guess is correct. There is no golden body martial art that does not have a pulse. Even the invincible Vajra body is the same. And the only weak point of the invincible Vajra body is the mind. Jiang Feng's words hit the nail on the head. At this moment, Subhuti was under the influence of the demonic music. He was half kneeling on the ground, his body trembling slightly, and his eyes glowing red. Pa! A ferocious black tiger appeared behind Subhuti and clawed at his back. A large piece of flesh was torn from Subhuti's back, and blood splattered everywhere. Let me help His Majesty solve this problem. Jiang Feng was about to give Subhuti another blow, but the martial emperor suddenly reached out and activated the great phaseless technique. Subhuti's body was sent flying, smashing through the door behind him and flying into the ancient castle. He is an eminent monk after all. Let him live. The martial emperor gave a dignified reason, but the credibility was too low. An archangel flapped his wings and flew down, landing beside Subhuti and carrying him away. Everyone has passed the first stage, please continue. A woman with a 7-hero sword stood on the stairs at the side. She was the guard captain of the 7-hero sword guards, Wang Xiaoran. Playing this kind of boring game, your villa master is really boring. The martial emperor sneered, if you have the guts, let him come out and have a good fight with us. Everyone, please abide by the rules of the game. The next stage is still waiting for you. With that, Wang Xiaoran used her qinggong and disappeared from everyone's line of sight in a flash. This woman, she is so young, but she already has such qinggong. Jiang Feng praised, the 7-hero villa is indeed amazing. The few martial arts that my third brother created are also out of the ordinary. It's just a few escape techniques. Niu Xuan was very unconvinced. If we really compete in martial arts, she can't beat me. Yes, sect leader Niu's Japanese martial arts are also very powerful. Jiang Feng praised with a smile, but no matter how Niu Xuan heard it, he felt that something was wrong. Where should we go next? Long Fengyu looked at the huge castle. There were many rooms inside, and he really didn't know where to go. Follow me. The martial emperor raised his foot and walked towards the second floor. Jiang Feng believed in his judgment and immediately followed his footsteps. The rest of the people followed the lead of the two of them. Out of the 6 people, 2 of them stood on Jiang Feng's side. One of them was here to pass the time, and the only one who sincerely helped the martial emperor was a brainless idiot. However, the martial emperor felt that he was in an extremely good condition today. He would definitely be able to beat up that bastard Li Fan. They directly went to the second floor. In front of the second floor, stood a young man dressed in simple clothes with sharp eyebrows and starry eyes. This man was holding a big sword in his hand. He stood on the stairs and waved the sword, training his body. Seeing the martial emperor and the others coming over, the young man's expression remained the same. Huashan Chen Junhua? Jiang Feng was very familiar with the people in the pugilistic world. Although Chen Junhua had left Huashan a long time ago, he was still recognized by Jiang Feng with a glance. Right now, I am the 7-hero villa's Chen Junhua. Chen Junhua emphasized his identity. I am the 7-hero villa's commandment elder. Everyone, please enlighten me. Who is willing to fight? The martial emperor was incomparably arrogant. He did not want to personally participate in every battle. He was an emperor, so he must have the airs of an emperor. Chapter 1659. Mr. Chen had a bright future. Jiang Feng sighed. It's a pity that he withdrew from Mount Hua halfway. What a pity. Don't say anything useless. Chen Junhua said decisively, let's fight. Let me fight this round. Niu Shuiyan felt that he had found a chance to show off. The monk from before was indeed difficult to deal with, but this guy in front of him with a big sword did not seem to be famous. When Jiang Feng mentioned him, he did not seem to be particularly respectful. Moreover, this guy was an abandoned disciple of Mount Hua. He must have been expelled by Mount Hua because he did not have any potential or strength. Jiang Feng was extremely hypocritical. He must be too embarrassed to say it out loud, so he found such an excuse. Moreover, this person was really crazy. Using such a big sword, it was like a door plank, right? That kind of weapon was not suitable for attack. It was probably used to act cool. Niu Shuiyan, please enlighten me. Chen Junhua followed the rules of the competition and cupped his hands at Niu Shuiyan. But at this moment, Niu Shuiyan suddenly attacked. He directly whipped his leg and kicked towards Chen Junhua's head. But Chen Junhua pushed his left hand forward and used his arm to block Niu Shuiyan's calf. Who wants to spar with you? You reckless thing, die. Niu Shuiyan said as he turned around and gave another side kick. Chen Junhua easily pulled out the big sword on his back and held it in front of him. With a thud, he blocked Niu Shuiyan's kick. Even if it was a steel plate, Niu Shuiyan was confident that his kick could bend it, but the big sword in Chen Junhua's hand was undamaged. Instead, it produced a sharp sword aura that shook Niu Shuiyan's calf and even left some blood marks on his calf. What? Niu Shuiyan did not react. Such a heavy big sword, how could he wave it like it was a game? Even if a martial artist had great strength, such a heavy big sword should not be played with so easily, right? Or could it be that this sword was strong on the outside but weak on the inside? It was not heavy at all. Since that was the case, he might as well snatch the sword. His opponent was a swordsman. Without the sword, he would probably lose half of his combat power. Give it to me. Niu Shuiyan showed an opening. Taking advantage of Chen Junhua's attack, he suddenly moved to the side and kicked Chen Junhua's wrist, causing him to take a step back. At the same time, he threw the big sword in his hand towards Niu Shuiyan. Niu Shuiyan was overjoyed. This was exactly what he wanted. Niu Shuiyan stretched out his hand, wanting to catch the sword. Pu. The big sword pressed down on Niu Shuiyan's body and pushed him to the ground. Shuiyan, Niu said, sword. Isn't this a fucking small mountain? Chen, 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 he comma Chen, 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 Chen said, Chen, Chen, Jun, Chen, Chen, Chen 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 Chen, he, Chen. Jiang Chen, Jiang Chen Chen. A Wu, the sword, the Feng, with Chen, Feng, the Chen Chen follow, he. Chen Feng was with. The reason why he was allowed to follow him was because he wanted to drag that bureau chief Niu down with him. As long as bureau chief Niu was on their side, Jiang Feng would always have the support of the government. For Jiang Feng, it was very important to have this support. After all, he did not want to end up like Li Fan. Cheng Mohan, I'll leave this place to you. All right. Cheng Mohan, who had disappeared for a long time, seemed to have been reborn. She was originally a top expert among the embroidered uniform guards, and now, through Jiang Feng, she had learned the real great phaseless technique, so naturally, her strength had increased greatly. Cheng Mohan walked in front of Chen Junhua and once again stood on one leg, setting up her guqin. She leaned back slightly, as if she could sit down by leaning on one of her legs. He did not look like he was here to fight. Instead, he looked like a real musician. Elder Chen, please enlighten me. As Cheng Mohan spoke, she stretched out her hand and plucked the strings. A crescent-shaped sound wave flew out and slashed towards Chen Junhua. Clang. Chen Junhua immediately held his sword horizontally like a shield, blocking in front of him. The sword chi left a row of sword marks on the sword, and Chen Junhua's body was also pushed back a step by the sword chi. Oh! When the martial emperor saw this move, he gave Jiang Feng a meaningful look. Great phaseless technique? What Cheng Mohan used was a special kind of airflow attack that was formed by fusing the great phaseless technique with sound wave. Cheng Mohan named it Sword Sound, and it was a set of attack that belonged to her. Come, continue. As Cheng Mohan spoke, she continued to wave her fingers, and another sword sound flew out, turning into the shape of a crescent moon, heading straight for Chen Junhua. Ha! Chen Junhua did not have the slightest bit of fear, and directly waved the huge sword in his hand, and with a clang, the sound wave in front of him was split in half. Good sword technique. This feeling of knowing sword intent like the back of his hand made Chen Junhua more confident, and also made Cheng Mohan admire him from the bottom of her heart. Try again. Cheng Mohan constantly strummed the zither strings, and sword sounds flew out, one after another, heading towards Chen Junhua. But Chen Junhua only continued to wave his huge sword, again and again, splitting the sound wave in front of him. Chen Junhua was like a sword god who did not know exhaustion, waving the huge sword in his hand non-stop, and step by step, he walked towards Cheng Mohan. As long as he walked in front of Cheng Mohan, with just one sword strike, Cheng Mohan would probably be defeated. But Cheng Mohan flicked her hand, and the sound wave suddenly spun, sliding to the side, and attacked Chen Junhua from behind. This kind of unique attack method was something that almost no one could think of. She can control the direction of the sound? This little girl is somewhat powerful. The martial emperor began to envy Jiang Feng again. Whether it was Li Fan or Jiang Feng, they both had talented people by their side. Sooner or later, there will be many talented people by my side. This world will belong to me. Dang! Chen Junhua waved his huge sword, blocking a few sound waves. But Cheng Mohan quickly flicked out two more sword sounds, once again rushing towards Chen Junhua. Chen Junhua could not dodge in time, and was injured by the sword sound. The sword sound was incomparably sharp, and Chen Junhua's wound was very deep. However, he endured the pain and brandished his sword. He slashed forward with an indomitable will. Cheng Mohan barely managed to retreat, but the big sword cut through her zither, and then slashed into the ground. What a waste of time! The martial emperor finally became a little impatient. He pulled Cheng Mohan over and threw her behind him. At the same time, he struck out with his palm towards Chen Junhua. Chen Junhua raised his sword horizontally, and an inch-deep palm print was left on the door-like sword. Chapter 1660. Chen Junhua's body slid out once again. After all, it was the martial emperor's attack, and his body directly smashed into the wall behind him. Chen Junhua's body was embedded in the wall, but he shattered the surrounding stones and stood up, holding the large sword that was as big as a door in his hand once again. It is my honor to be able to fight with the martial emperor. Chen Junhua was a true martial arts fanatic, otherwise he would not have been abducted by Li Fan all those years ago. After seeing my Huashan heavy sword, please try my dragon subduing sword. As Chen Junhua spoke, he stabbed the big sword into the ground and pulled it out again. With a loud sound, a 3-meter-long sword was pulled out by him and held in his hand. Dragon subduing sword? Child's play. As the martial emperor spoke, he raised his hand and a powerful palm wind directly struck Chen Junhua's body. Although Chen Junhua's swordsmanship was very strong, it could not block the martial emperor's powerful palm strike. He was once again blown backwards, heavily crashing into the wall. So what if your swordsmanship is strong? The martial emperor mocked. In front of absolute strength, no matter how exquisite your swordsmanship is, it's useless. With that, the martial emperor's body flashed and appeared in front of Chen Junhua, directly slapping towards Chen Junhua's head. However, Chen Junhua suddenly thrusted out with his sword at an extremely fast speed. He, who had been training with a big sword all year round, had now broken free from the comfort of the big sword, and his speed was as if it had been liberated. His treasured sword seemed to have surpassed the speed of sound, and instantly arrived between the martial emperor's eyebrows. Clang! The martial emperor stretched out his hand and quickly blocked the sword. Your sword is indeed very fast, but if you want to deal with me, it's far from enough. Just as the martial emperor finished speaking, Chen Junhua continued to stab. In an instant, he seemed to have stabbed out over 100 times. The air in front of him seemed to have been split apart, but the martial emperor also dodged Chen Junhuo's stab in the blink of an eye. Dragon of Mount Hua. Chen Junhuo's stab was unparalleled in the world. He used his own swordsmanship to force the martial emperor back a few steps. To be able to make me retreat, you should be proud. The martial emperor patted the dust on his body and said. However, it ends here. The martial emperor seemed to have lost interest in Chen Junhuo. 100 men commander, go kill him. Roar. The bare-headed man jumped over and pounced on Chen Junhuo. Dragon of Mount Hua. Suddenly, Chen Junhuo's sword pierced through the opponent's helmet and blinded one of his eyes. However, the other party did not have the slightest intention of retreating. It was as if he did not know pain. He flew up and slapped Chen Junhuo. A large part of Chen Junhuo's chest was torn off, and he flew out, smashing through the wall behind him and falling outside. However, the archangel suddenly appeared and caught him in her arms. Then, she flapped her wings and flew away. Everyone has passed the second trial. Wang Xiaoran stood by the side and said, next is the third stage, everyone, do your best. But without the zither, Cheng Mohan has lost her ability to fight. Jiang Feng smiled and said, according to the agreement, we can go back and exchange people, right? Of course, but the rules are the same. You'll have to go through the first and second stages again. Heh, right now, Grandmaster Subhuti should still be recuperating. Jiang Feng laughed, after suffering such injuries, I'm afraid he won't be able to recover without lying in bed for a few days. With that, he brought Cheng Mohan down the stairs. Not long later, he came back with an ashen face. What's wrong? Seeing that Jiang Feng did not change people, Martial Emperor could not help but ask. That damned monk, he has recovered. Even someone as shrewd as Jiang Feng could not help but become flustered and exasperated. It seems that the Archangel should have the ability to heal quickly. Long Fengyu already understood the mystery behind it. This way, we, who are constantly entering and leaving the castle, will be in a disadvantageous situation. If we have to fight every time, it will definitely be disadvantageous to us. Jiang Feng did not expect that he would miscalculate. He felt a bit angry. It seems like we can only continue to fight. Then let's continue. Martial Emperor sneered, as long as I am here, that Li Fan will not be able to play any trick. The 6 of them have no way out and can only continue to explore the castle. Martial Emperor can sense the aura of experts, especially Li Fan's aura. It is very dense and is getting closer and closer to him. If not for the rules of the game, he would have directly smashed the castle wall and immediately arrived in front of Li Fan. But Martial Emperor is also afraid that Li Fan will use some tricks. If he does not have any helpers by his side and rashly goes to Li Fan's place, what if he is tricked by him? Martial Emperor is confident in his martial arts, but he also has a rough judgment of Li Fan's strength. Even if he has improved, if Li Fan uses his full strength, he should still be able to fight evenly with him. If there are other experts by his side, even if they are a bit weaker, they will still be a straw to crush him. The reason why he brought Jiang Feng along is because of this plan. That Li Fan. What is he thinking? Niu Xuan is still puzzled as he walks. He might as well bring everyone to fight with us. Isn't that more advantageous for them? Why did he choose such a so-called game? Is there even a need to ask? Jiang Feng's temper is not very good. He coldly snorted and said with a mouth full of ridicule, my third brother is using this opportunity to properly train his soldiers, borrowing our hands to hone the fighting strength of his subordinates. Long Fengyu also cannot help but sigh, such courage and insight, such a good method, then are we going to follow his script? Why don't we issue an order and have 1,000 of us swarm him together? That is the last resort and also the last resort. Although Jiang Feng is unhappy, he has not lost his mind. We can't ignore the threat of the 4 nuclear bombs. This time, we have already fallen into Li Fan's trap and are completely following his rhythm. No matter what method he uses, this emperor will break it. Martial Emperor is full of confidence. Strength is the strongest method. He tracks Li Fan's power and continues to walk in the castle. In front of him is a slender corridor. A gust of cold wind passes through the corridor. Who is in front? Come out. Jiang Feng put away his fan and said to the front. Aya, the place they chose for me is not good. A youngster's voice came from the corridor. Then, torches lit up at the side of the corridor, illuminating the corridor. Le Xiaohu stands there, leaning on a stone pillar and cursing with some dissatisfaction. Such a place, the cold wind is like it is haunted. It is too uncomfortable. You are Li Fan's eldest disciple, right? Seeing Le Xiaohu, Martial Emperor is even more jealous. This youngster is so talented that he was actually taken in as a disciple by Li Fan. However, this also shows that Li Fan is very weak. For someone like me who keeps changing bodies, he does not need a disciple. Chapter 1661. The reason why Chinese martial masters accepted disciples was because no matter how powerful a martial master was, he would grow old sooner or later. When that time came, his body functions would deteriorate, and he would not be able to use the best martial arts. Therefore, teaching a few disciples, while passing on martial arts, could also guard against old age. To a martial emperor, he did not need any bullshit disciples. He could continue to be reborn and become stronger. Li Fan's disciple, right? Then let me destroy you. Martial Emperor had already felt the aura on Le Xiaohu, a grandmaster. It was already very impressive to have this kind of power at such a young age. It could not be said to be impressive, it should be said to be terrifying. After all, Le Xiaohu was only 17 years old this year. A 17-year-old grandmaster was simply unimaginable. Even the brilliant Liu Jinchan, when he was 17 years old, was only an expert who had reached the next level. 17 years old, although a person's body functions were still young at this age. However, Chinese martial arts not only required external skills, but also internal skills to drive it. And a person's internal skills could not be achieved overnight, it required a lot of time to slowly hone. Li Fan had the Tai Chi reversal, which was already very fast. However, if he wanted to become a top-notch existence like a sky immortal, he needed a lot of time to accumulate his internal skills. Therefore, it was almost impossible to become a grandmaster in a young age. According to the rules of martial arts, a teenager would start practicing external skills at the age of 5. To practice internal skills, one's body must reach a certain level. Only after practicing external skills for about 3 years could one start practicing internal skills. In 10 years, those who were slightly stupid could almost practice internal skills to the point of perfection. And those who were slightly smarter could practice to the next level. For example, Liu Jinchan, with his world-class talent, reached the peak of the next level at the age of 17. At the age of 18, he broke through to the next level and became a grandmaster at the age of 25. As for Martial Emperor, when he was 20 years old, he only reached the middle stage of the next level. It was just that he practiced Yang Qi, so even though he had reached the next level, he could still exchange blows with those who had reached the peak. Martial Emperor, although his skills were extremely high, he was a late bloomer. When he was 40 years old, he finally reached the level of a grandmaster. At the age of 50, he found a suitable body, so he used a sorcery to constantly change his brain and body. However, changing his brain also brought him a lot of pain. First of all, a normal body could only endure for 20 years. During these 20 years, he suffered from headaches day and night, wishing he could die. If not for his strong willpower, he would have committed suicide long ago. It was only when the martial emperor cultivated the true immortal technique that he was truly free from this kind of pain. The true immortal art allowed him to reconstruct his body, giving him a brand new look. Therefore, when he saw a talented disciple like Le Xiaohu, he could not help but burn with jealousy. Centurion, go kill him. Roar. The bare-headed man, who was blind in one eye, could not feel pain at all, nor could he think. The only value of his existence was to obey the orders of the martial monarch. The bare-headed man pounced on Le Xiaohu in a frenzy. This saint-level bare-headed man raised his palm and slapped Le Xiaohu. Le Xiaohu sensed danger and immediately took a step back, avoiding the bear man's slap. Bang! A stone pillar that was half a meter thick was directly smashed by the bear man's lazy waist. Looking at the flying gravel, Le Xiaohu exclaimed, "Wow, such great strength. After all, it was saint-level strength." The bear man pounced forward and hugged Le Xiaohu. Le Xiaohu squatted down, and the bear man hugged another stone pillar in front of him. With a fierce hug, it directly broke the pillar in half. Bang, bang, bang. The bear man waved his palm continuously and slapped at Le Xiaohu. This bear man's attack did not have any palm techniques, it was completely relying on its brute force. Although in terms of strength, Le Xiaohu did not dare to fight against the bear man. But with the martial arts that he learned from his master, how could he lose in such a place? Roar! The bear man did not seem to know fatigue. He attacked continuously, trying to tear Le Xiaohu into pieces. It pounced in front of Le Xiaohu, stretched out a claw, and slapped at the top of Le Xiaohu's head. However, Le Xiaohu dodged the bear man's palm. Then, at an extremely fast speed, he pressed down on the bear man's arm, leaped up, and instantly grabbed the bear man's helmet with his tiger claws, forcibly smashing the helmet. His 5 fingers all pierced into the bear man's face. Logically speaking, the bear man should be in so much pain that he would rather die and lose the ability to fight. However, the bear man did not care at all. He directly wrapped his arms around Le Xiaohu and took advantage of the situation to hug Le Xiaohu. In just 1 second, he would be able to choke Le Xiaohu into 2. However, at this time, Le Xiaohu stretched out his hand and pointed at the bear man. The bear man's body instantly stiffened, the strength in his body instantly flowed out of his body, and his whole body seemed to have turned soft. In addition to being a martial fighter, Le Xiaohu also had another identity, and that was a mutant. His ability was elimination. In the past, he could eliminate the superpowers of other mutants, but now, he had trained to the point where he could directly eliminate the opponent's strength. Strictly speaking, Le Xiaohu's ability should be called teleportation. He could temporarily teleport the opponent's energy to another place, and after a period of time, they would return. Le Xiaohu was good at using this ability, and directly disintegrated the bear man's strength. Go! Le Xiaohu's palm directly pierced through the bear man's chest and grabbed its heart out. Meanwhile, his other hand reached out and crushed the bear man's throat. This was not the end. Le Xiaohu continuously used his tiger claws, breaking the bear man's joints every time. In the end, the bear man could only lie limply on the ground. Even though its strength had returned and its strong vitality could still live for a while without its heart, it could no longer move. After all, the joints of its bones had been crushed into pieces. Oh, it's a big job. Le Xiaohu sat on the bear man's body and wiped his palm clean on its fur. Come, who wants to play with me? Le Xiaohu hooked his finger at Emperor Wu and the others. Little guy, not bad. Only one of his true subordinates had died here. Emperor Wu could not tell if he was angry or something else. He chuckled and suddenly appeared in front of Le Xiaohu. He directly grabbed Le Xiaohu's neck with his palm and lifted Le Xiaohu into the air. But your master is too cruel to you. He actually sent you to be fed to the true dragon. As he spoke, a golden dragon head flew out from behind Emperor Wu and opened its mouth to swallow Le Xiaohu. However, Le Xiaohu winked at Emperor Wu. Then, Emperor Wu loosened his grip and Le Xiaohu disappeared into thin air. Chapter 1662. The martial emperor was shocked. He couldn't find Le Xiaohu's aura at all. How was this possible? He was a dignified martial emperor, a formidable character of his generation. How could he not even be able to lock onto the aura of a grandmaster? It's a superpower. Jiang Feng immediately understood. He's a mutant. How troublesome. The martial emperor became a little irritable. Why did Li Fan have so many experts under him? Take this. A roar suddenly came from above his head. Without hesitation, the martial emperor raised his head and waved his hand to block. Bang! A wave of energy was slapped away by the martial emperor and smashed into the wall beside him, directly shattering it. Le Xiaohu was still above the martial emperor's head. With a tiger's roar, He continuously released white energy waves towards the martial emperor. It's useless. However, the martial emperor did not care. Although Le Xiaohu's strength was not bad, it was far from enough for him. These energy waves were all sent flying by the martial emperor's palm. Not a single one of them landed on his body. The inside of the castle was in trouble. The floor and walls were blasted into pieces, and rocks fell everywhere. Le Xiaohu, today is the day of your death. The martial emperor could not take it anymore. He extended his palm and sucked. Le Xiaohu's body was out of control, and was immediately pulled towards the martial emperor. Tiger tail whip. Le Xiaohu borrowed the force of his flight to twist his waist, and with a ferocious roundhouse kick, he counterattacked the martial emperor. It's still useless. A powerful force erupted from the martial emperor's body. Without waiting for Le Xiaohu to approach, he was sent flying. Le Xiaohu's body heavily crashed into the pillar behind him. Just as the martial emperor was about to give chase, he suddenly frowned. He turned around and with an iron palm, he grabbed a long sword that was thrusting towards him. Dragon subduing sword again? The martial emperor held a black long sword in his hand. Looking at the seemingly weak but actually swift and fierce little girl, he could not help but sneer. Don't you have any other tricks up your sleeves? Jiang Yi. Seeing this woman, Jiang Feng's expression slightly stiffened. He didn't expect that she would still be sent out. Li Fan's 2 disciples? Fine, today, I will destroy the 2 of you together. Sorry, I'm not here to fight. Jiang Yi pulled back the eager Le Xiaohu, then cupped his hands towards the martial emperor. Master has ordered that the 2 of us are not your match. But after 10 years, if you are still alive, us 2 martial brothers and sister will come again to ask for advice. Hihi, of course I will be alive, but the same cannot be said for you all. Just as the martial monarch was about to make a move, he suddenly felt a wave of killing intent assault him. It was as if a sword was pointed at his throat, causing him to subconsciously take a step back. Sword formed from killing intent. The martial emperor took another look at Jiang Yi. These 2 disciples of Li Fan were actually so outstanding. Everyone, please continue. The 2 of us will take our leave for now. After saying that, Jiang Yi pulled Le Xiaohu along. The 2 of them used their qinggong and leaped backwards. They flew far away and then disappeared from the martial emperor's sight. If we don't get rid of these 2, they will definitely become a great threat in the future. Long Fengyu felt a wave of apprehension in his heart. This was too terrifying. The 2 successors of the 7 Knights Villa would definitely be extraordinary people in the future. With me here, what is there to be afraid of? The martial emperor sneered, in front of me, they will forever be 2 clowns. Jiang Feng stood at the side and did not say anything. The fact that the martial emperor did not put Jiang Yi in his eyes made him even happier. If Jiang Yi was targeted by the martial emperor, then even if he died, he would protect Jiang Yi's safety. Everyone can die, but Jiang Yi must live. Let's go, don't let Li Fan wait for too long. The martial emperor continued to lead the way, bringing along the remaining few fighting forces and walked forward. They left the castle from the back and came to a courtyard outside. The courtyard was very big, as wide as half a football field. And a young man wearing a green robe and armor, riding on a tall horse, was holding his crescent moon blade. Following the sound of the horse's hooves, he slowly approached them. Guan Wenbao? That's right. Guan Wenbao held the crescent moon blade in his hand horizontally. If you have thought about it, you must first ask the big blade in my hand. Old Guan, let's make it clear, you are not the only one showing off in this trial. A British man wearing a white suit sat on top of a pillar at the side. This man was none other than Guan Wenbao's good friend, Yang Kai. I still want to play with them. The left and right protectors of the 7 heroes Villa He. Jiang Feng looked at the 2 of them, his eyebrows slightly raised. With the 2 of you going out together, it seems like this trial will not be easy. Who can stop me? The martial emperor did not care about the 2 of them at all. To the martial emperor, only Li Fan could be considered a worthy opponent. Martial emperor, right? Guan Wenbao raised his crescent moon blade and walked in front of the martial emperor. Guan clan's descendant, Guan Wenbao requests a battle. Against you, I disdain to make a move. The martial emperor was a little tired. He even suspected that this was a trap that Li Fan deliberately set for him. He purposely arranged these people to wear down his fighting spirit and then easily win. However, he was thinking too much. The longer he dragged it out, the stronger my fighting spirit would be. The moment he was defeated, I will definitely take his head and hang it on the wall, letting him see how I unify and conquer the whole world. Everyone, there is no need to be anxious. You are already close to our villa lord. Yang Kai stretched and stood up, reminding Jiang Feng and the others, as long as you pass this trial, you will be able to see him. Oh. Then what about the undying evil Buddha, Imperial Concubine Ju? Is she not participating in the game this time? Jiang Feng immediately asked. She is not participating. Yang Kai shrugged his shoulders. At least someone needs to stay back. With us two brothers stopping for the second last trial, it will be fine. Don't worry, the two of us will definitely serve you well. Hey, don't speak nonsense. Guan Wenbao did not know whether to laugh or cry. Yang Kai always said these kinds of words that would cause people to misunderstand. Was this his natural attribute? Is what this Dao grandpa said wrong? Yang Kai was stunned for a moment, looking at Guan Wenbao with a puzzled expression. Where is it wrong? Old Guan, point it out. Forget it. Just pretend that I didn't say anything. Guan Wenbao was also speechless. Seems like it was indeed a natural attribute. Who is going to fight? With his generals fighting, as the emperor, the martial emperor naturally would not personally take action. Along the way, he had taken all kinds of actions, making Jiang Feng seem like an idle person. But Jiang Feng was also a precious combat strength. It was not suitable to use him in this situation. Long Fengyu, Niu Shuiyan, Cheng Mohan, the three of you go. Jiang Feng naturally understood the martial emperor's thoughts, so he said. Me. Niu Shuiyan was stunned. Jiang Feng handed a jade flute to Cheng Mohan, confirming it. That's right, Niu Zhongmen, it is time for you to shine. Niu Shuiyan was dumbfounded. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.